report out from closed session. No actions were taken during that closed session. The next item is for all of those who want to stand and pledge allegiance to the flag, can do at this time.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. The next item are the reports, and we'll start out with a member from ETA. Can kindly take the podium.
I did. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you
But
very
it's
much
really
for pointing that
small,
out.
no?
Mr. Davis, could you please excuse me for that little mix-up? At this time, it's public comment.
I forgot to copy you some. Oh, turn your mic on. Press mute. Press mute. I thought I turned. Is it green? Press mute until it turns green. Yeah.
Okay, I can understand why the school board president would want to cancel the public comment section, as he just almost did, because commonly, when the public gets a chance to address the board and the district, commonly they are quite critical, because there's a lot to be critical here at Emery Unified School District, and so I can see why he's made to feel uncomfortable by the public speaking freely. There's new people in the crowd here, so I would like to relay the story that I think everybody that sends their children to Emery Unified, or just our citizens of Emeryville and financially support this district, everybody should know. So if people have already heard the story, you can bear with me, then this is for the newcomers. There's a child here present, and I asked the child's guardian, is it okay if I quote a spokesperson from the Citizens Oversight Committee, thank you, and an official decision maker here at the district, because usually you don't want to quote them directly in the presence of children, because a lot of times some untoward language and some unseemly language comes from them, and tonight this child's guardian said it was okay with him if I quote directly from a member of the school district's staff. So the district, the person I'm talking about is one Marceline Kravchik, who, when I went to the COC for Measure J COC committee, Citizens Oversight Committee, I went to them to alert them to the fact that we have a problem with teacher retention here at Emery, a big problem, and that's part of their bailiwick. That's one of the things that they deal with, is teacher retention for Measure J. And so I thought they should be aware of it, and I was met with from Dr., she's a PhD, Dr. Kravchik. She told me, shut up, fuck you. Dr. Rubio, who's the staff person for the Measure J COC, told me, you're an idiot and you're a fool. Dr. Rubio didn't intervene and say anything about how Dr. Kravchik had said something perhaps ill-advised. Instead, he just sat there and let it stand. There was one member of the COC, somebody without a PhD, I should mention, just a master's degree, who stated he thought that was not correct, and that's the members of the public should not be addressed in that manner, and so he apologized. That was a person with a master's degree, but the doctors told me, you're an idiot, you're a fool, and shut up, fuck you. And so people should know that. That's who we're dealing with here. Those are the decision makers here at Emery Unified School District. That's how they treat the public. And I'm a parent with a child in the district, and that's how I was treated. So newcomers here should be aware of this. Thanks a lot.
Any other public comment? Okay, now on to our next item. ETA representative?
Good evening. Mark Davis, ETA. I want to start by thanking and just, I was in utter amazement. I went to the, took a trip to Sacramento with Dora and, but Dora continues to amaze me. I mean, this, one, her work ethic, two, the detail at which she produces documents is just mind-boggling. And she picked up on, we're trying to get to ratification of a contract, and she picked up on a couple blurbs and cells, and I got that message this morning, and I think by noon it was corrected. So it was, she's an amazing lady, has a heck of a work ethic. On a good note, just received word that Omar Issa, senior, has been accepted to Cal, so he'll be entering Berkeley. So good for him, he worked hard. The open house we had last night, teachers did attempt to recruit anybody walking in that wasn't here. So we did get the interest of one kid. He's right now, I think he's at, I want to say KIP, but he heard we had a guitar club and he was all ears. You know, he was, so who knows? We'll get him. We have one concern, and that is we had an accident in the music room with a light covering that just let loose and fell while there was a class in there. Nobody got hurt, but we're just wondering maybe they ought to be checked. Don't want anything happening. We are trying to ratify this contract and keep bumping into little delays. We hope to have it done by June 1st. And I'm telling you, there's nobody that wants it quicker than I do. So hopefully, I don't know the schedule for the board in June, but you'll get it eventually. The only other thing is I know we're starting to, Ramon Perez is going to lead a bridge program this summer for our current 8th graders rising into 9th grade, and I know that he will bring it, you know, and hopefully it'll make a difference going into the fall, you know. So other than that, that's what we have. I believe that a lot of teachers have given notice as to what their plans are next year. I'm not certain what that final tally is. And I think there are some that are maybe undecided, I'm not sure. But anyway, that goes on. I'll see you in September. You know, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Davis. Next one would be the any member from CSEA for a report tonight.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to piggyback on Mr. Davis. Omar is one of mine. He got a job with my recommendation and Ms. Dunn for the food service department. So, you know, I would like to thank Emery, you know, and especially Mr. Davis, and you know, that work real hard with the children. Y'all don't understand that they come to us, but they have the love for the teacher as well. So I want to thank you, Mr. Davis, to help them as much as you can. I'm just bringing an update. You know, it's not, as you need, I'll let y'all read this for yourself. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't come here too often, but when I do come, I come with what I want. But in this case, I come to say thank you to Dr. Rubio and to Ms. Dunn. They made sure all my concerns was addressed in 1 week. And I want to say to Dr. Rubio and the board and to the staff of, over there, thank y'all, because this year, you know, it's been rough, but you know we ain't had no problem. But you know, next year, it's gonna get better and better and better and better and better and better. So thank you. As Mr. Davis said, we'll see you in September.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Gracie. All right. At this time, student representative. Are you on? Hitting mute. Yeah.
Is it on? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so this week was SBAC testing for English on Tuesday and today Thursday. Next week is for math, also on Tuesday and Wednesday. AP testing has just finished, and prom was also on May 20th, which was fun. We all, ASB and the staff, worked together to create a field day, which was yesterday at Temescal Park, and that was mainly just to unify the school since we are in a new place, and it's something that we've done in elementary school, so we just wanted to bring it back. And we also want to say thank you to Teacher Tree, she's not here, and Ms. Dunn and the whole food service department for providing us food for the barbecue yesterday. Currently we're working on yearbook and planning things for graduation, getting volunteers. Track's last meet will be this Saturday, and then today is the Bottle Bay Area Urban Debate League Gala, and that's where member Solis is. That's it. Yep.
All right. All right.
I just wanted to say, this week we had the most intense, wonderful, absolutely brilliant presentation by the students from Yemen and the Daughters and Sons of Islam, speaking to cultural as well as ethnic, an explanation for students in the high school. It was fabulous. If you get a chance to see, I think they recorded some of it and they had some information on it, but they made a presentation that was clear. It was from the perspective of students, and I think it should be recognized because it was a fabulous presentation. If they have a chance sometime in one of the future meetings, you should invite them.
Thank you. All right. At this time, superintendent's report.
Thank you. I just emailed you something. Well, I'll wait. Good evening, everybody. I want to start with saying to Mr. Davis and to the union negotiating team, thank you again. It was a really collaborative effort. There was a lot of teamwork. I think we set a record in terms of the number of days that we had to meet or didn't have to meet in terms of contract negotiations. And that could not have happened unless we had a real collaborative effort. So thank you, Ms. Harrell. Thank you for the team on the ETA side. We really appreciate that. I think I'm allowed to publicly speak about the tentative agreement, Mr. Davis, I believe, at this point. Teachers have a tentative 5%, 3% raise for next year and 2%, almost 2% the following year. So I think this is great news for the teachers, and I think they're anxious, as Mr. Davis alluded to take a vote on that tentative agreement. Regarding teacher retention, just as an update to the community and to the board, we did check since we last reported on this topic to the school board, where we knew we had 3 teachers leaving either to move geographically to another city or another place, or to not commute from San Francisco. And outside of those 3 teachers and the 4 we knew about for other reasons that we talked to, 100% of classroom teachers have indicated that they're returning. And they have formalized that per Ed Code by May 15th. So it looks like there is not a mass exodus, as some people had claimed, and we're happy to report that to you. Regarding hiring, I will tell you that we're still going through an intense effort to make sure we're finding the best teachers for our classrooms. We've interviewed almost 200 people face-to-face. We have paper screened out an additional 150 or so that we wouldn't see face-to-face based on lack of experience. We have some great teachers coming in, like a gentleman I see in the crowd tonight. We have teachers with 15 years experience, 12 years experience, 5 years and 6 years experience, and so we're doing pretty well so far, and we're going to keep trying to work it hard and knock it out of the park as best we can, because this is the most important thing I can do, I think, as superintendent, and that we can do with the staff and teachers to make a difference. So wanted to give you an update on that. I did tell teachers, by the way, today, just as an update for the community that are here or anyone who sees the video, that we have no plans on changing anyone's grade level assignments unless a teacher requests that. We do have 1 or 2 teachers who have requested that, but outside of that, people are teaching in the same grade, and I'm saying that in part because it sounds like I keep hearing rumors that there's some anxiety out there, so I thought I would address that. We had teachers today meeting the new administrators for Annie Yates. We have new administrators for next year. And so teachers today met in a small gathering over at Chevy's and got to meet the new administrators for Annie Yates. And there's a lot of great opportunity, I think, as we bring in new leadership. And so we're looking forward to those new members of the community. And I'd like to say a job well done to those people who organized the high school prom. I was able to stop by and see the prom a little bit on Saturday night, and it was exciting to see the kids all dressed up, and I know a lot of effort went into that, and I'd never been to the location over in Alameda. I don't know, is it the military base, part of the old naval base, I guess? So it was great to spend a little time there and see the high school teachers chaperoning our high school kids. I think it's great. Congratulations to Omar. And two more things. We had a parent come to us a few weeks ago, maybe about a month back, and I don't think I reported this to the school board. This parent is bringing 2 middle school students to us next year from Oakland Unified, and I got to meet the students, and he shared with us, he said, I want you to know that Emery Unified is the talk of the town. He said his 2 kids are at Sankofa, I think it's the name of the school, and he said he went down to Oakland Unified's office, and they have been getting requests after requests after requests to come to Emery Unified. And the woman looked at him and said, why does everyone want to go to Emery? And many of those requests are being denied by the district, by Oakland Unified, but I wanted to share that with the board based on that parent's communication to me. And my last item for tonight is a real big thank you to Rich Robbins and Wareham Development, who continue to really model the way in terms of how the business community supports the school district. I had a sit down with Mr. Robbins, who agreed to expand the programming that Scientific Adventures for Girls does for our schools, and he is adding and funding and supporting that wholeheartedly for this summer, so any kids who happen to be enrolled in the city's summer program will also see science every week through Scientific Adventures for Girls. And so a real big thank you to Rich Robbins, because he's quite, in my mind, the role model that I think for the business leaders in Emeryville in terms of what they could be doing for the school district. And that's my report. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rubio.
Don, can I ask a clarification question?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm just trying to reconcile what Mark said and what John said around teacher retention. From Mark, I heard that there was, it seems like there's still a window in which teachers can opt out, I guess, of coming back next year. And John, you mentioned that there isn't, so I just wanted to wrap my mind around that.
There's not. I think Mr. Davis said he wasn't sure the results of the latest tally. I thought that's what Mr. Davis said.
So can teachers still opt out of coming back next year?
No, the education code requires school districts under the size of 2,000 to respond no later than May 15th.
No, is that?
And Mr. Davis, if you know something else,
I'm repeating what I've been told. That I think some initially went to it and found a date of June 30th. I don't.
It's for larger school districts. I think that is the date.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I think there were some people thinking that that might be some kind of valid date. So I'm just.
Yeah, we discussed it with CTA last year because CTA thought that.
Could I ask why on last year, in August of 16, there were still people leaving the district?
I don't think it's an agenda item, so I don't know that I don't know how much we're delving into this topic. So if I could, I'd be happy to respond to you and look at this. But right now, I'm not sure.
You were just saying they can't, and I'm saying that it looks like they were able to.
Well, here's what I'm saying. Let me elaborate for a moment, and then maybe we should move on.
Yes, I agree.
The ed code does not allow, teachers have to make a commitment by May 15th. Teachers commit to that, and if a teacher, our communication to teachers is, and has always been, if later in the summer you say to us that you have some reason that you want to leave, we will not release you from your credential or from your position unless we have a very good replacement. So we did have a teacher last year, I recall from the high school, who said, I just found a school across the street from my new apartment. Can I please do that? And we said, no, you're going to have to tell Alameda Unified that we're not releasing you unless we find a great replacement. And so I don't know if that helps.
All right. And now for the board president's report. I want to first start off by sending my great deep thanks to the CSA entity within this district. They are the unsung heroes of making the school work as far as the day in and day out operations. They go undetected, but I do want to give them a big round of applause and big thanks for their efforts and their work ethic. As opposed to so I do want to, really appreciate your efforts. Secondly, this is a time of year that we are kind of take stock because we're wrapping things up. And I had a chance to have breakfast with Congresswoman Barbara Lee last week, and it was a very pleasurable experience and warm welcome. And I was able to basically tell the Emeryville, or Emery Unified School District story, and that's always a good feeling that I have because of the efforts that have been laid forth by the members of the community, the students, the staff, everybody in this room that has been basically walked through this entity has made this happen, and it's a pleasure telling the story about Emeryville and its story and with the community's involvement with where we have, because the people in that room that I was speaking with had a partial response, actually had a effort that they applied to and helped us get to where we are today. And then finally, last night we had the open house for the ECCL, and it was an all grades open house, and I was amazed by the teachers and their presentation and how they are so devoted to this institution and to the students that are here in Emery. And I can't give them enough thanks because of their efforts. I walked into the room and felt they had this energy that is really welcoming and to help every student that is in this building and in this institution and in this district. So I just want to give them a huge thanks. And I think everybody deserves a good vacation after all this, but they've really put their efforts into it this year. So I'm really proud of them. So with that being said, that's all I have to say. Thank you. All right, now we can go on to the consent calendar. Items 8.1 through 8.6, are there any items that would like to be pulled?
Personnel.
All right, that is item 8.2 to be pulled. Any others? You know what, I want to pull 8.5 because I want to hear a little bit more about that, and maybe 8.6 because I want to hear about that as well. And if there's any other request, if not, then can we have a motion for items 8.1, 8.3, 8.4?
So moved.
I'll second.
Ms. Emery, roll call, please.
Member Ball?
Yes.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Inch?
Yes.
Member Langner?
Yes.
Member Vargas?
Yes.
President Merriam?
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Okay, item 8.2, personnel actions.
So there has been another resignation. I have updated my list starting in January of 2016 up until now, this present board meeting. 34 credentialed teachers and administrators have left. That's a year and a half. We have 50 current employees. That means that 34 out of 50 in the last year and a half have left. I think that's a problem, and I just wanted to mention it because we have another resignation, and that was added under this board meeting.
Ms. Farrell, go ahead, please.
Yes.
This is item 8.2, personnel actions.
My purpose here this evening and my thinking for the pulling of 8.2
Could
is...
you
My purpose here this evening, as is my thinking, which is our normal practice to introduce new hires to the board and to the community. So this evening, I'm here to introduce to you, or ask for your approval, which will be coming, the paperwork will be coming at the next board meeting, Mr. Pierre Clark. Mr. Clark has been teaching in the Bay Area for the past 7 years. He brings experience from both private and charter schools. Mr. Clark was described as having a calming presence on campus, and it was stated that parents look to him and request his classroom often. Mr. Pierre Clark. I will also be introducing to you Ms. Rhonda James. Ms. James has worked in Oakland Unified for more than 10 years. She is looking for a change. It was stated that Ms. James' high expectations, integrity, and commitment to her students will make any school lucky to have her on their staff. And I finally introduce to you Ms. Sylvina Knight. Ms. Knight began her teaching career as a substitute teacher a few years ago and is now working as a TK teacher in Oakland Unified. Ms. Knight's interests include singing, dancing, as well as arts and crafts. Mr. Clark, Ms. James, and Ms. Knight.
Hey, welcome, welcome. Please come up if you want to say a few things about yourself.
Yeah.
Come on up. Please,
Yes,
anything.
go ahead and take the podium.
Yeah. We'd love to know who you are, or the community would.
Good evening, everyone. I am Pierre Clark. And just a little bit about myself. I'm a native of Oakland, born and raised. I got my undergraduate degree from Morehouse College, earned my teaching credential from San Francisco State, and just recently earned my master's in curriculum and instruction from the University of the Pacific in Stockton. I am a single dad. I currently work at Vincent Academy in West Oakland, which is a fairly new charter school right behind McClymonds. And I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to hitting the ground running and supporting you all and moving our kids forward.
Welcome, welcome.
Pierre, welcome. Pierre, quick question. What grade or subjects would you be teaching?
I believe sixth grade. Sorry, sixth grade.
Yes, sixth grade, math and science.
Great, thank you.
Tough act to follow. Rhonda James. I started my teaching career in Oakland Unified School District, and I too am looking forward to coming to Emeryville to teach and to have fun. I have no idea what grade I will be teaching, hopefully 4th through 4th grade, but looking forward to it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, Michelle.
Hi, I'm Sylvina Knight. I look forward to working in Emeryville. Teaching is a passion of mine. I homeschooled for, 17 years before I realized that, my youngest one might not want me anymore, so I really need to keep this going. And so that's when I started to become a credentialed teacher. And I just look forward to being here. So, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you. And which grade would or subjects?
I don't know all of them just yet, but I believe first grade, I believe. Yeah. And I'm not sure of Ms. James yet, but I'm working on it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming.
With that being... with 8.2, at this time we can open it up for public comment.
Well, I think we should rename these school board meetings. We should start calling it instead of Emery school board meetings, we should start calling them the John Rubio Feel Good Hour. Mr. Rubio, the superintendent, as you'll notice, it's nothing but bright, sunny future. Everything's wonderful here at Emery under his tutelage. He's doing a fantastic job, he says. But what he's not telling you and us, and what he should be telling you us ethically, is how we're really doing vis-a-vis teacher retention. Emery Unified School District is the worst school district in the entire Bay Area vis-a-vis teacher retention. The next worst is Oakland. Oakland, over the last calendar year, lost 7% of its teachers. Emery lost 37% of its teachers. The next one below Oakland is Berkeley. They lost about 3% of their teachers. And then every other school district is less than 3%. So it's 3% all around the whole Bay Area, 7% in Oakland, and 37 at Emery. And everything is wonderful, says our superintendent at the John Rubio Good Time Hour. You know, I understand how, Mr. Rubio, I understand how you want to put like a positive spin on stuff. You know, maybe you're worried about like people getting depressed or getting kind of, pushed down by the reality. But that's not what we pay you for. We pay you to, unbiased, unvarnished truth. We pay you to take a bad situation and try to make it better and not to just spin it like this. We want to know what the real story is, not like this cavalcade of bogus numbers. Now, Mr. Rubio at the last board meeting made this presentation with PowerPoint and some bars and charts and graphs, and if you paid attention to that, you'd think, well, wow, Emery is doing great. It's got to be one of the best school districts for teacher retention in the Bay Area. But as the facts, of course, as I said, reveal that that's absolutely false. So to these 3 new teachers that here at Emery, I say welcome, and I hope that you will be retained. I hope that you will not get discouraged. But if you look at Emery's recent history or long-term history, I'm sorry to report you're probably going to be taking off and trying to get out here as fast as you can, I would imagine. I mean, I hope that's not the case. I hope we can turn this around. But I do say welcome. It's hopeful. But like I said, there seems to be a problem with the superintendent here at this school district. That's what teachers tell me anyway. Thank you.
Additional comment?
So before I talk, I'm just going to say hi to Shirley, because public comment, we can say whatever we want. So I only came tonight because I heard she was coming. So welcome back to Emeryville. And then I was compelled to speak up because inaccuracies are troublesome. And I get to swear according to Mr. Donahue because I too have a doctorate in education. So I get to use profanity and my son's out of the room. So that's also good. It's an exciting night for me. The number currently is 8, not 7, that have left for next year. And I don't like it when people parse words. I really appreciated what Dr. Rubio said, which was classroom teachers. And of course, one of the anchors of the school and one of the highlights when I first got on the school board was Mr. Rogers. And I have heard a rumor that he is stepping down and leaving the district, and I hope I'm not outing him. But I just do not like the way that the words were parsed. I noticed they were chosen very carefully. And so when you talk teacher retention, it's teachers in any capacity. And you're right, if you ask them for a May 15th letter of resignation and their intent in writing, it is possible to hold teachers' credentials if they choose to resign after that date, unless it's in the contract, which I have not read recently, and that is a bargain thing. So it's not a ironclad thing, and you can have teachers who are on the fence and still resign. And then you have to hold their credential, which only works if they're going to another district, school, charters, and I know this because I work in one now. We can hire teachers with held credentials at kind of a nice little loophole. So it's not so ironclad, and I suspect, knowing Mr. Davis watches the contract closely, that they didn't let that sneak in. And I'm also curious if you sent a notice to all the teachers and had them fill something out and send it back in writing. Because if it's not in writing, there's some loopholes there. So, but good luck with that.
Any additional comments? Please step up to the podium.
Good evening. I'll make it quick, but I just wanted to, with the subject of Mr. Rogers leaving, I would like, I'm not sure the protocol, but to maybe for the next meeting, be on the agenda, maybe discussing the flow of how you see PBIS being implemented next year. As you know, that's my major thing that I'm concerned about is the discipline and the support of both the teachers and the students in maintaining a safe environment for our kids. And with both the principal and now PBIS, head of PBIS leaving, and who knows who else. I'm not sure exactly who is on the board, but I'm concerned that 2 of the major players are now leaving, and what that means, because we've been told all year long that it was going to be implemented and that this was going to be the big thing, and that's what I've been holding on to. And so I'm quite concerned now for next year that that won't roll out. The teachers don't seem to have been trained on this or have been where it's underway, and that I feel like in September that it was going to be rolled out. So if I can have that added to the
Sure,
agenda,
absolutely.
I'd appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a great question. Thank you.
Could you state your name once for the minutes? I didn't catch your name.
I'm sorry. My name is Laura Scriba.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, if that is public comment, then we can, do I have a motion for 8.2? Or if there's any further questions on the board? If not, then we can move to a motion for 8.2.
Sorry, so who is the teacher leaving? The teacher that resigned?
She's talking about the coach, Mr. Rogers.
That'll be coming to a future board meeting. It's not on tonight's agenda. It'll be coming to a future board meeting. It's not on tonight's agenda.
So position 109 is not Mr. Rogers?
I believe it's, and again, we can't publicly, typically we try not to share personal information regarding personnel matters, but I suspect it's a resignation we already knew about regarding one of the, yes.
So this was part of the 7?
That's correct.
This is part of the 7?
That's correct.
At this time, motion, please.
I make a motion to move action 8.2.
All right.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Member Ball?
Yes.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Inch?
Yes.
Member Langner?
Yes.
Member Vargas?
Yes.
President Merriam?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. All right, the 2 remaining items under the consent calendar, 8.5, and I'd like to just hear a little bit more about that, if that would all possible.
It may be. You're getting me a little off guard. And
Okay,
just
I'm sorry about that.
New coming to Emery teachers, don't feel like you have to stay, Mr. Romeo told you. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Welcome again.
Thank you, and welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome to Emery.
So, I'm sorry, Mr. Marion, you're asking about grad night?
No, let's start out with the field trip authorization.
Renegades field trip.
I know that it's a yearly field trip that the 3rd grade teachers do, I believe. I don't think it's the
Yeah,
first year.
that's-
I wish I knew about it. It's a little hard if I don't have
Okay,
the
well,
information.
I can elaborate on it. I've
Oh,
got it here
go
in front of
ahead.
me. I just wanted basically, because it's a chance for students at this age to get beyond these walls, and that's always a welcoming experience for any child in an educational environment, because it's out of their, I'm not going to say comfort zone, but it's out of what they're familiar with. Anyway, but it looks like they'll be going to the Point Bonita YMCA, and they've got local sponsors and families that are going to be chaperoning, or sponsors, I'm sorry, and then a total number of participating are 45. So it's going to be a large contingency upon Point Bonita. And they're going to be transported by the school vans, and it was signed off by the school site administrator, and that's Ms. Lang. And I just want to, this is just a good thing for the students to have this experience. And that's all I've got to say on that, but if there's any other questions or comments on that? If not, I will seek a motion on this item.
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, who moved?
Bailey. Who seconds it?
Member Ball?
Yes.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Inch?
Yes.
Member Langner?
Yes.
Member Vargas?
Yes.
President Merriam?
Yes, and the motion carries unanimously. And then on to the last item in the consent calendar is 8.6, the grad night trip request. And it looks like they're going to be going to Magic Mountain and Universal Studios. God, I wish I could go. Anyway.
Harry Potter World. Harry Potter World.
Oh, okay, great. Anyway, Dr. Rubio, do you have anything on this? Because I'm just looking through here. It looks like it's, how many students are participating?
I think it's a small number of students. I
Yeah.
believe Ms. Good indicated it was just about 7
7.
students.
Okay, 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
may I ask what's the ratio of students to chaperones, I guess?
I believe it's 7 to 1, to be
7
honest
to
with you.
Okay, so, okay, 1 parent and 7 students. Signed off by the principal. That's good. I think we're ready to go on that one.
So, can I
Yeah,
say
go ahead.
something? So, respectfully, I would like to suggest more than one chaperone for grad night. It is a long trip. I've made it several years, and I always try to make sure there's at least one chaperone per 4 kids. They do get excited, and it's hard for us to keep up with the 4 ourselves. But the main concern is to have another driver for the trip, either there or on the way back, and to be able to switch up, and also so the other adult can have adult company.
I'll let Ms. Good know, though, your
Because they can make,
suggestion.
they
Yeah.
can make you lose your mind after Magic Mountain and Disneyland and Universal Studios. So I would suggest at least 2 adults.
I'll
And
let
all the
Ms. Good-
sugar.
That's
a lot of sugar.
That's a lot of sugar.
And it's dark.
I will forward your suggestion to Ms. Good.
Okay.
All right. At this time, any comments on this? And if not, then we have a.
I just wanted to ask if what happens if more students decide to go, or is it that's it? There's no more window. Is the window closed?
What would typically help, I don't know the details on it, and I'm sorry, it's hard with that. It's hard, I don't know all the details. I suspect she could add some.
I can tell you a little bit
Yeah, go
about
ahead.
it.
Yeah.
So generally, there is a cutoff for payments. I'm not sure how that worked within the Emery district this year, but I do know within the organizations, Magic Mountain, Disneyland, Universal Studios, they are usually your big hosts for grad night, where the kids come from all over. I mean, sometimes you've had people fly in, but generally busloads of kids. And they do have a cutoff to where you can purchase tickets. So pretty much right by now, you would not be able to get any more tickets unless you purchase them at the door, which would be a much higher rate.
All right. Any public comment on this item? With none, any closing comments or questions from the board? All right.
I would just reiterate
go
the
ahead.
importance of trying to increase the ratio of chaperones for children, especially given certain events.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Do I have a motion on this?
I'll move.
A second. I'll second it. Roll call, please.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Inch?
Yes.
Member Langner?
Yes.
Member Vargas?
Yes.
President Merriam?
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Now we're going on to discussion items. First item is 9.1, and it's designation of California Interscholastic Federation representative. Dr. Rubio, can you elaborate on that?
Yes, I can. Thank you. The rationale for this one is that it is a legal requirement per Ed Code that league representatives to CIF, or the California Interscholastic Federation, be designated by the governing board. After consulting with Principal Good, the names are attached as the representatives being recommended for your approval for the 17-18 school year. And that is, I believe, it may be the same as the last year. Oh, no, sorry, a little different. The principal, Ms. Good, and Todd Kane Ross, our athletic director.
Dr. Rubio, you're saying those are the same individuals that were last year?
No, I'm sorry. I think it was slightly different last year.
Any questions from here?
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about what their role would be?
I don't, Member Collins, know a lot of the details regarding their role. I do know that we're required to designate them from year to year. I know Ms. Good did it last year. I believe she did it with Ms. Burns, excuse me, with Mr. Burns. It's just that I don't know offhand more details than that.
Do we know how these individuals were selected or recommended?
I don't. I need your questions in advance of the meetings, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know offhand.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's good.
I think just trying to jog my memory from last time, I think we went through a similar set of questions pertaining to this, and I think it was an item that was tabled or and came back to another board meeting. I think it was established by the principal first time around, and then.
Yes, and it's based partly, I believe, on experience. I mean, I know typically, we're looking for people who have experience supervising the games or athletic experience. I know Mr. Ross, Todd Kane Ross, has done a lot of work for us in that area. So I think that has a lot to do with it, but that's what I know right now.
Okay. Is there any other clarifying questions for Dr. Rubio on this? If not, public comment on this item? With none, are there any follow-up questions you need for this item 9.1?
I just recommend that if we bring an item into the agenda, that we come prepared for answering some basic questions, and if we're not prepared for that, then maybe we should push it to a future meeting when we do have answers to those questions.
We can. I'm sorry, guys. It's a little difficult for me to have that background on every single item we have, but I'll do my best.
So are you, Member Vargas, are you suggesting we table this item? Are you
that was my recommendation,
Okay.
just generally because we're being asked to approve
Okay.
we're being asked to approve
Okay.
it, right?
If that is the case, do we still want a motion for this item to be voted upon?
Can I just give you a quick point of order? It's going to be brief and it'll help. If you table something and it doesn't come back at the next meeting, it's dead. And you don't want that, so you want to just postpone it.
Okay. Oh, thank
So,
you.
Yeah.
I misspoke. I misspoke regarding tabling. I'm sorry. We can postpone this item until the next board meeting. If that's the case. Since there's no movement on this, then we move on to item 9.2.
Okay. Great, thank you. I don't know if Ms. Shaw is not here yet, so we may want to move along in our agenda until she gets here.
Then let's go to item 9.3, update as site issues.
Great.
9.3.
9.3. Is this in the crowd at all? Do we have this at all? Great. All right, item 9.3, there was a request by Member Vargas to discuss issues surrounding the site. And we've discovered a few things since then. We've gathered some information. So one thing on the back table, if you don't have it, there's a color-coded chart with the current warranty items that we're working on with the construction company. So that's, I believe it's on the back table there. Board members, I think you have a copy in front of you. I believe, if I understood Member Vargas's request correctly, that one item, Member Vargas, right, you requested was kind of an update on where we're at with issues that we're trying to resolve. Ms. Temery, is it black and white? Oh, it's black and white, I'm sorry. Is it black and white? I apologize. It has some shading on the left side with item numbers. No, Ms. Temery, is it back there? Okay. So you have a list here of the current outstanding issues. The city staff is really doing a great job of helping us coordinate some of these. Brad Helfenberger is really helping a lot with this. So if anything that's incomplete or we have a question about with Turner in terms of status, we are working on. This was a much longer list previously, so we have gotten down to quite a smaller list here, but I wanted to provide to you, based on Member Vargas's request, everything that we could regarding what's outstanding in terms of things we're trying to get resolved.
And for clarification, this was not a new request, right? I believe you mentioned that this list already existed. That's what I believe you mentioned that last time, so we were just wanted to make this publicly available, right, for everybody to discuss.
Yes.
And then we're saying that to the best of our ability, we believe these are all of the remaining items.
Yes, that's correct.
Pertaining either construction or facilities, and we're showing a path for fixing. First, that we're showing that we know what the issues are, and we believe it's all-inclusive to the best of our ability.
That's correct.
And then we're saying that there's, again, a path for resolving each and every single one of
Yes.
them. Okay, great, thank you.
Sure.
So it looks like the last update was 5.8, if I'm seeing correctly. And there's been a couple things that happened that I don't see on here. Someone stood in front of us and was talking about the fixture falling from the ceiling. Was it in one of the classrooms? Who was that?
Mr. Davis mentioned something that he said just
Right.
occurred recently. I wasn't aware of it. It hasn't been brought to my attention, so we'll go ahead and check it out. So
Right.
we'll add it to the list. He said it was in the music room, I believe.
Right, so 5.8, if we can get an update to date, that would be real good.
Well, this is the current status of everything. So the date reported is what you have. That's when it was reported.
Right.
So it's just a tracking of if something was reported in January, we're still working it out. It's on this list because it has not been resolved yet. So we still are trying to work this out. Again, we've probably removed about 100 items from this list that Turner has responded to. So we're trying to work through this as quickly
Okay,
as we
so
can.
this is the list that you discussed in your meeting that Friday?
It is part of that list. That's correct. It's part of the conversation, yes. Everything we discussed was on here.
John, you mentioned that city staff was driving some, if not most of these items. Could you remind us, I guess, for education, like who's responsible for what between the city and the school?
Well, I'm not sure when you say driving. The city staff has been helping us coordinate this list and keep track of it.
Okay.
So the issues come from teachers or things that we notice or things that come to our attention. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or not.
Okay.
So they're helping us coordinate the list and so we're
Helping us coordinate,
this list
maintaining this list.
and maintaining the list. That's right, and helping us with the communication to Turner.
And is it the city's responsibility to do this, or is it ours?
You know what?
Or just lending a helping hand, or
it's teamwork.
or
It's a joint operation, and so we appreciate the help.
This is item 9.3, the update to site issues. And Dr. Rubio, I just have just a comment on this list here. A question having to do with the list that's compiled. There's other outstanding items as far as the deck on the main balcony area, and that is a separate issue. And how would that be addressed?
That's a decision we have to make as we go along in time. We appreciated your thoughts on it and input on it. It is a design issue with the architect, and so we have to keep evaluating. We do see some cracking. We're not very happy with that. That was not Turner's fault, from everything we know. And what we'll need to do is evaluate over time to what extent do we coat that with something? Do we repair it? Do we completely replace it, which we believe would be a pretty heavy chunk of money. So something we're going to have to evaluate.
Okay.
And there was one other issue, by the way. There was an issue regarding the door over here. So we did have this subcontractor come out. And we determined, in part based on a conversation with one of our custodians, that they had not correctly removed the middle pole and broke it. So that was something we did, and we didn't know, and it wasn't reported to us. And it was very clear to the subcontractor that one of our custodians broke the bolts at the bottom. So they trained our custodians, here's how you do it correctly, and it's been repaired. I believe it's already been repaired.
All right.
Yeah. So that was on us.
Any other clarifying questions for Dr. Rubio?
One last, what's the process for adding items? If somebody discovers an item, who should they bring it to the attention of?
They could bring it either to myself or Ms. Emery or to Brad Helfenberger. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other? If not, time for public comment on this item.
They're on the back table, I believe. Yeah. No? Can you check for a second? Yeah, can you just look?
There are no copies on the back table.
Can you pull
Here's
one,
extra.
please? Can you go over there?
So I'm just looking at here.
He's claiming there's none there.
We got item number 6, overhang between buildings A and C. And the problem is standing water. And that's a red issue, which means Turner will not fix it. So we're just stuck with that. It's a design issue, standing water. So, we're going to be in trouble with Alameda County vector control because of design flaw, and we're just stuck with that, apparently, according to this. Similarly, for number 43, which is just called commons, lawn drainage. Apparently there's standing water on the common lawn, so Turner will not fix that, according to this. And so we're just on the hook for that. And these are design issues. I can't see any reason why the taxpayers should be on the hook for that. I think you should force Turner to pay for that. I mean, vector control issues now that we're going to have to deal with forever. What are we going to be doing? Putting insecticide in the standing water that from now until 50 years from now? It just seems wrong. Seems like Turner, but that's a red coded item, which this indicates Turner will not fix. So you got yellows, which are pending. Turner might fix, and that's the majority. Red, Turner will not fix, and so there you go. If you're a school district and you want to build a school, I guess the message is don't hire Turner. Thanks.
And I will update the board. My apologies regarding one of the items Mr. Donahue just brought up. Although Turner is not responsible and it is a design issue, they did indicate in that Friday meeting that they're going to go ahead and fix that for us. So regarding the lawn drainage,
All right.
which we appreciate. I appreciate it.
Public comment?
So to answer Member Vargas's question, I just want to clarify, this is the school, and the school maintains itself. It's the school thing. The city, while we have leased it from you and then leased it back to you, and don't get me started on the lease backs, because I think we're about 6 deep. We are technically one of the people leasing it for $200 a year, I think is all we're making off of leasing it back to you guys. But the JOA, which I know was provided to everybody a couple of weeks ago, clearly lays out the maintenance schedule, and probably the only one, other than maybe my wife up on the counter because we talk about these things, it lays out that we are setting aside money for maintenance. This is not maintenance. This is ongoing warranty or design flaws, which you guys were in charge of. So before I forget, I'd love to have a list of all the design flaws and actually your intent to fix them, but that's a separate piece. As far as the maintenance goes, you probably didn't. You're probably aware of this because you read the JOA. We're setting aside money for maintenance. The first chunk of money is
When you say we, who's we? We're setting aside
city
money?
and the schools
Okay,
at that
thank you.
79-21 split.
Thank you. That should
And-
apply for everything, right?
What?
Yeah. Thank you.
And so, you guys every year are supposed to be putting $20,000 into the bank for the next 5 years for graffiti repair. Is the only maintenance item. I don't know if you've read the JOA in a while, but you're supposed to be putting 20 grand in the bank. We put 5, because that brings us to, I think it's 23,000 is our responsibility. And then we start over, and it's like 1.2 after 10 years that we're supposed to have saved. And then it goes all the way up. At year 40, we don't have to put anything aside for maintenance, but it gets increasingly more and more, and you should be budgeting for that. So when you're really wondering who's paying for this, there are funds, but this is your site, this is your school, this is your building. We put some money in as part of the contract, but that's it. It's a school. All this warranty stuff, all the design flaws, those are yours. You can talk to me about Ralph Hawley, then we can talk about city property, but this is school property. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the city has made it very clear as to what they believe is.
I do just want to make some clarifying comments. Clarifying comments regarding. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Lillian Schroth. I just have a couple questions about this. So I don't know if Christian is saying that now the school is responsible for all these repairs. Is that Turner is? Okay, that's what I thought. So I'm staggered by the list. And status, there are all these question marks. So what do they mean? What are the question marks? So there are all these question marks, and I mean, this isn't like a new thing. This has been going on for a long time. So that the status of all these design flaws, whatever they are, that it's still a big question mark is troubling. And then you have, design issue. Who determines whether it's a construction issue or a design issue? Who makes that determination? Can somebody tell me?
I can respond if it's okay. It's typically it's an interesting conversation between the architects and a construction firm, and so they will look together at the and Mr. Merriam, as an architect, you could probably I'll probably get this wrong,
You're doing fine.
but they'll look at the drawings together, the last drawings, the revisions, and there's another word for revisions that I'm forgetting.
Addenda, or?
When they change them at the last minute.
Oh, well, it's a change order for one, but
Okay.
yeah.
I don't recall. So they'll look at the drawings, and then the construction company will, and the architect will say, well, here's what the drawing said, and then they'll try to make a determination. If the architect says, well, clearly it spells out, you should have done this, then it's on the construction company. If it says that it should have been this way, then the construction company will say, well, this is what your drawings say. So I think it's pretty typical for a construction project.
Okay, so has it been established where it says design issue that the architect has acknowledged that it's a design issue?
In terms of whether they've acknowledged it, sometimes they acknowledge it, and sometimes there's an argument between, or a disagreement between construction companies and architects regarding whether or not the plans were interpreted correctly.
So I guess the question is, you know, what's the school and what are the students supposed to do in the meantime? Because this tug of war could go on for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering what the school is supposed to do.
Well, I'll give you an
You know?
example. If there's a missing plate on the side of a 15-foot wall or bridge, that I don't think it's something that is going to impact students at all in any way. Cosmetically, it doesn't look very nice. So one of the design issues is a missing plate that's 15 feet high, that's 2 feet by 2 feet. So to answer your question, let me say it this way. We want to resolve whatever is on this list. We have whittled this down to a smaller and smaller list. We want to hold Turner accountable for making sure that happens when it's on Turner. And if it's on the architect, then we're going to continue to have conversations with the architect.
It's just funny, I don't see anything that says it's Turner's responsibility. It's either a question mark, a design issue, incomplete. I see something that says not in Turner's scope.
Mm-hmm.
Turner claimed damage caused by owner.
Mm-hmm.
Where does Turner take any responsibility? So we could go on and on with this discussion, but I guess it's getting to the point where something needs to change. And you say the plate doesn't affect the quality of life of the students, but actually leaking toilets and standing water do affect the quality of life of the students. Yeah. And those are also described as design issues. So it's just, it would be good to know like how the board and the superintendent are going to move forward to take care of this long list of problems.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, and we're going to get these problems resolved.
Can I ask for some clarification? It looks like this list started in January.
That looks to be correct to me based on what's on here. Now, it may be that there were things reported before then that were resolved, and again, we have eliminated, I believe, at least 100 items off of here. So there may have been things from November or December.
But my question is that once something's resolved, it just is dropped from this list? Is it added to a different list? Or is there a new list created? Because of all these things, I see one thing listed as fixed. I see one thing.
If the board wants to see the items that were corrected, we can email that to the board, put it on the website.
And what, do you know at what date that list would have started?
I don't offhand without it being in front of me, but if you
But
would...
you do have a list of completed items
Yes.
that start at a specific date?
Yes.
Okay, I would like, if the rest of the board would like to see that, I would.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and make a note to get that to you.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm a bit more interested in the list of remaining items. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you. A bit more interested in this particular list of remaining items. And I think I made a side note suggestion about some potential columns that would give us some visibility, although that's a very tactical recommendation, but it would give us some visibility over who would be responsible either for the cost and or for actually doing the job of fixing this. To me, the most important thing, my personal takeaway, is that we identify the issues and we're working towards a path of fixing them. And I think that's, to me, my most important takeaway. So I appreciate that.
But I also think a list of past issues would give us a pattern of how quickly things were fixed, what type of things were fixed, when they were reported, and how they were taken care of.
Why does that matter?
It gives an indication as to what we're facing in the future.
Okay, I do want to chime in here. This conversation is going back and forth, and as far as this is, I'm going to pull my experience on this situation here. We have a mechanism to cover the majority of these, and it's called a warranty. And that warranty is in effect for 2 years for every replacement and for some of the performance. The ability to correct these items is done through that mechanism, and I believe it's in the contract as far as, or I think, Dr. Ruby, I don't have the language in front of me, but having to do with corrective measures by the subcontractors that are responsible for each of these items. You can basically contact them, and then they will come out in a certain amount of time. That's one thing that has to be established or enforced. That's probably what's kind of the lacking thing here. Will address the majority of these. There's some other design issues that have been labeled on here, and sometimes design issues, and I'm not going to give a credence or give a pat on the back to any contractor in this regards, but sometimes it comes out to be missed expectations or expectations that they thought it would be better or some different configuration. So when it happens that it's basically a letdown when it comes to what they see, what a person sees or is talking about when it comes to a certain item. With that being said, there are still serious things that need to be addressed, and I think there's ongoing conversation with the entire design team, the district, the architect, and the contractor regarding this building. And that will take place over this period, and I know it's because it's a long drawn out affair because it has to do with dollars, and that's the biggest thing when it comes to corrective measures. If it come out here with no cost, it's usually done with relatively ease. That's just my opinion. But as it stands now, we do have a mechanism to address the majority of these, warranty, and then the bigger design issues will be addressed in more discussions with the contractor. But as far as any life safety or fire life safety, any accessibility issues, and I'd have to go deeper into these, but as it looks here, there may be a few, but just at first look, that it doesn't constitute this serious, but it is an important concern. I'm not discounting it. So what it stands to be is that we have a mechanism to take care of these items, but we just need to keep on it.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate the detail of putting this together and making sure that we have our eyes on this. Does the rest of the board have appetite for seeing a progress update for every future board meeting? Meaning continue with this list and say these are the ones that were completed in a much more succinct manner than we discussed these today?
I would be interested in updates maybe every other meeting, so we aren't, just hit myself in the face, my apologies. So we're not, every meeting talking about it, but it's on our radar.
I think you're actually onto something. I think we were doing it with when Swinnerton was under our contract, or when we were contracted with Swinnerton. I think we can still address it in that fashion where we have an update every other board meeting or every month.
Sure.
Based on, because we're going to discover new things along the way, and here again we have a 2-year window, but that window is closing. So we really want to make sure that this is addressed in the utmost timely fashion.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would like to see the monthly update, our first board meeting of the month, so that would give them a month to month, and we'd get it to see what was done in that time.
Well, let me ask for clarification. It would be okay if we do the second, because that only gives us 2 weeks now between now and the next report. If you're asking for it to start in June.
2 weeks is okay.
So would you like the next update in 2 weeks or 6 weeks? If we'd want them in the beginning of the month, it would either be 2 weeks from now or 6 weeks from now.
Okay, well, since school is ending, I think 6 weeks would be okay.
Okay.
But
and after that, the beginning of the month?
Before school let back in, I don't want nothing on this list.
I don't either.
And I have a couple more things to add on this list. But
You'll let me know.
Talk about it later.
Thank you.
So, any other further questions to Dr. Rubio? If not, then public comment, please.
Hi, my name is Lisa Ballantyne. I'm the Vice President General Manager for Turner Construction here in the Bay Area.
Thank you for coming. I didn't know you were here tonight.
Yeah, I wanted to attend.
I appreciate
I know
it.
I'm on the agenda for, I think it's the next one, but
Yeah.
I did want to, I think the point was well taken where I know we're not going to debate what items or whose responsibility in a board meeting. But Turner Construction is absolutely committed to meeting our warranty expectations. I think your point is if there's design issues, we were not design builder on this job, so we actually aren't responsible for the design of it. But if there are warranty issues or if there are standards of construction performance, we are responsible. The list starts out, maybe to kind of respond to the question, the list starts out very long with a punch list. You know, it starts with a punch list at the very completion. And we complete those punch list items. Over time, as people start to use the facility, sometimes items get added to the list that you didn't even know existed at that time of punch list. So we don't like that the list is 100 items even at this point. It was probably thousands of items when it originally, when the first turnover happened in the punch list process. But I do want to at least dispel that Turner's not going anywhere. You know, where I was just talking to my project manager actually on the way over here today, and that we're committed to always meeting our expectations and what is our requirements. I think where many of the things on the item, if there's a question, some of them have to be like dug into and researched. Some of them there was some damage done, you know, some that we came back and did anyway. But we have a subcontractor base that's still committed to any warranty item, so that is not the question. I think the ones that are the push-pull, we just really need to make sure that we're keeping attention on them on all sides, because it takes everybody to come together to get some resolution. So.
And while you're here, if you don't mind, could you just elaborate on one thing for us?
Sure.
There were some comments made by community members, which I think were not well researched and maybe misleading, regarding the company that is having some issues.
You may want to call that to the next.
Oh, we can wait. I just didn't know if she wanted to elaborate on that. Okay. So should I not elaborate?
Yeah, just
you want to
let's wait for the next.
Okay, we can wait. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. Any further public comment? All right. If not, then any other comments from or questions from the board? This, I take it, was for information only, or direction-wise, we gave you some direction, correct, Dr. Rubio?
Yes, and we'll go ahead and see another update in 6 weeks, and we'll come back to you.
All right. All right. The next item is 9.4, ECC.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me ask just a question. Ms. Shaw has just walked in from the YMCA. Can we go ahead and go back to 9.
You want to go back up to 9.1 then?
Can we? Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, 9.2.
Yes.
All right. Item 9.2 is YMCA of the Central Bay Area Child Development Programs.
Great. Hi, Pam. Welcome. Come on in. Hi, Fran. How are you? Good.
Hi, thank you. Do you have a clicker? I have to use this. Okay, great, thank you. Hi, thank you. I'm Pam Shaw. I'm Executive Director of Early Childhood Services for the YMCA of the Central Bay Area, and this is Fran Galati, who's President and CEO. So we're here to talk about what's going on this year. The purpose of this talk today is about our state report that we do by June 1st every year, and every year I come and do my annual song and dance and tell you what's happened during the year, answer any questions you may have, and look forward to what's going to happen in the next few years. So this year, this has been like one of our most exciting, energetic years since I've been with Emeryville, which has been 15 years we've had this partnership that we've been doing this. And this year we finally really got the special ed inclusion model down pat. We have a fabulous teacher who works closely with our teachers. There are 8 children with pretty significant disabilities, dual enrolled in the Head Start program. There's 4 in each of the preschool classrooms, and then there's support on site, and it's been a wonderful model. Kids who need full-day childcare are able to stay in the afternoons, and we've been able to support them through using Head Start and state funding dollars for that. We're providing coaching for infant and toddler teachers. We have monthly parent nutrition classes. Some of these things are thanks to Berkeley soda tax dollars, because there's just enough Berkeley kids on the site to warrant using the soda tax dollars here. So we've got parent nutrition classes, we've got dance classes, nutrition education and movement classes. The SELPA parent trainings are happening on site, so our parents get to attend these trainings and meetings as well. We have a health advisory committee that's made up of members of the health community that provide services to our children and families. We had a healthcare institute where we had close to 100 parents and 50 staff out there on a Saturday a few weeks ago, learning how to take care of their children so they didn't have to use emergency rooms for services. We hosted with Help Me Grow a Cafe Connection where there were about 100 people there. West Ed is doing a research project called Thinking Time, looking at executive functioning in 4-year-olds using an app on an iPad, which is very cool. UC Berkeley is doing a parent-child literacy project. There's a doctoral student there, and she is working with parents there, training them how to read to their children differently. And in 4 sessions, they can see improvement in how parents read to their kids, and they videotape pre-post. It's very exciting. Lifelong Dental Van is providing services on site. We have an apprentice program where we are training Head Start parents to become preschool teachers. We've graduated the first 16 last December, and the next 21 will graduate on June 16th. I know it's probably graduation here too, but if you're available to come, we'd love to see you over there. It's probably going to be either 6 to 8 or 7 to 9, and I will let Lisa know, and hopefully some or all of you can join us. These are Head Start parents and other community members who have taken 12 units of early childhood education. They've done health and safety training, and they've worked in classrooms in the mornings, making $13 an hour, and then in the afternoons they take the early childhood classes. And half of them, English is not their first language. All of them come from low-income backgrounds. All of them, they all happen to be all women, are women of color, and we are really excited about developing our own workforce. And we're looking at doing a teenage group. I'm going to look at the student on the panel here. Because we are working with the City of Oakland to get workforce development funds to wrap around these people, and so they are paying half the salaries in the morning, so we're very excited about this. We have a garden project going, and we have nurses from Samuel Merritt that are volunteering to do health screenings and other kinds of things. I know the last year's demographics did not look that great in terms of the number of Emeryville families that we're serving. The toddlers, the numbers are still pretty low of Emeryville residents, not for the total program, but for this particular site. And the preschoolers have gone up from something like below 50% last year to so actually over 65% now. We are targeting Emeryville kids for the state preschool program. We are doing outreach efforts more conscientiously, and we're prioritizing slots for Emory kids so that we're not filling slots immediately, but we're holding it until children get there. Or we're transferring them from the other sites so that they wind up in Emeryville, which is where we want them to be with their friends and neighbors. The total children by age you can see there, 5 1-year-olds, 19 2-year-olds, 23 3-year-olds, and 18 4-year-olds that are all now turning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, demographic speaking, we're very diverse. About 27% are African American, 45% Latino, 9% Asian, 13% white, 2% biracial, 2% American Indian. Languages are just as diverse. Of the languages other than English, the majority obviously speak Spanish. We've got Arabic, Punjabi, and then 11% speak an array of other languages from Chinese, Korean, French, African dialects, and a whole bunch of others, a couple of other things. Like of that 11%, each one speaks a different language. So for the annual self-evaluation, we look at the whole program, we look at the demographics, we look at what we've done and how we've done it. We use environmental rating scales to look at the physical environment and the materials. We use a tool called CLASS, which is Classroom Assessment, Learning Assessment, to assess adult-child interactions. And these are all research evidence-based tools to look at how do you improve program quality. We use an assessment that's required by state-funded programs called Desired Results. We do a family survey, which is actually being completed this week. And then we have quality improvement plans for any areas where we want to make improvement. So the desired results, the areas of focus for school readiness are looking at self and social development, language and literacy, cognitive development, math, health and physical development. These are outlined by the state, and there's indicators under each category. We assess children 3 times a year in each area and determine goals for each individual child, for each group of children, and for then the larger program as a whole, so that we can focus on things where the children have the greatest needs. In terms of our last CDE contract monitoring, which is part of what we have to report on, they have found 2 areas that we needed to fix, and we fixed it before basically they left the site, and it was around eligibility and need. All of these things are things that Head Start allows, but the state does not allow. that the state now allows since we've become part of an Alameda County pilot project. So they've changed the rules over the last year since we were monitored last, so they wouldn't have found these things as an issue now. For our environmental rating scales, this is the average across all of the 5 classes there, and we have 6.28 out of 7, which is pretty good. You have to report scores under 5 to the state and do corrective action plans for them, so we don't have any scores under 5. We've got a couple of areas that we're going to work a little closer on, the language and reasoning and the interactions. I said earlier our focus is school readiness, so you see things like this in the classroom where the center became a restaurant and we have our chefs there preparing their meals. We have garden projects where the children take care of the gardens, and some years are better than other years. This was flower garden over there, but they also have a garden where there's actually edible garden where they're growing fruits and vegetables, and I can tell you I've plucked them and eaten them around the way, and they're really good. Lots of math and science kind of related things, like with the bubbles and water and measuring. And then more cooking, because obviously cooking and food is a big activity. What does the future hold for us here? Well, who knows what's going to happen with federal and state money. The federal government gave us a cost of living 2 weeks ago, and then the president's budget came out and cut Head Start by the exact amount that they gave us for a COLA. So we don't know if we're going to have a cost of living or not on the federal side. But it does look like we're not going to have massive cuts, which could potentially happen. State funding is actually more predictable right now. The governor had put a pause on childcare and state preschool, and right now it looks like he's released the pause and is giving us more money and a higher reimbursement, which is wonderful to hear. We're hoping to add a 3rd preschool classroom and create a motor room at the Ralph Hawley site. The special ed people have kind of outgrown their space and want to move the motor equipment into another space. And John, we'd like to take over your office to do this. So we want to create like a therapeutic motor room, so there's like the OT can use it for the kids, and then on rainy days the kids can use it and have indoor motor activities. And Fran's goal in life is to have kinder gyms at every site, so hopefully it'll look like a combination of a therapeutic kinder gym by the time we're done. We're going to continue to participate in the county-wide quality rating and improvement system, and we are a 4-star program. We're evaluated on a 1 to 5 stars, and we're at 4 stars right now, and working our way up to 5. And then we hope to expand the apprenticeship and community college early childhood classes that are offered on site. All of the early childhood classes are offered in the afternoons or weekends or evenings on site, and so we have quite a crew of people coming in and out taking classes. I know that you're working with Berkeley City College here, and we're hoping to maybe combine some of those classes since we've had really nice luck working with Berkeley City for the general education classes. So we're looking to see if maybe your students want to come over to Ralph Hawley for early childhood classes. Maybe we send some people here for the general ed classes and see if we can work something out. So we'll be talking about that. Questions, comments, thoughts?
Questions from the board? Clarifying questions to the guest?
I was wondering if you could explain to me the process when Emeryville School District sends you a student. How is the exchange of fees, fee for services that you provide? How does that work?
So because most of our children qualify for state funding, there's usually no fee. It depends on how many hours they need, and there's a sliding fee scale established by the state. So I think of all the children that wanted full-day services, they were all eligible for state funding, so there's a fee scale set by the state, and the parents sign up for the program. Kind of at the same time, we actually have staff at the IEP meetings that attend, and usually even before the IEP, there's a warm handoff where the special ed staff bring the parents over to the center to look and see the classes that their children may be in. They're all enrolled in Head Start, and there are no fees for the Head Start portion of the day. So from 8:30 to 12, there are no fees, and the children are in both classes, and there's no cost to it. If they want to stay longer, come in earlier, or leave later, we're open from 7:30 to 5, then there may be fees. It's based on family size and income.
So you're reimbursed by the state for any students that Emory sends you? So you are reimbursed by the state for any students that Emory sends you?
If they're, if they're enrolled in childcare, yeah, the parents wouldn't pay a fee. It's separate from special ed services.
And that's actually what I was asking
So
about.
we don't get paid for special ed services. The special ed staff are there, they're paid through special ed, and those are the therapeutic intervention services. In terms of child care services, child development piece, we do that part.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, no,
please,
I'm understanding the child care aspect. I was asking about the students that are sent to you from Emery School District.
Right.
For special services.
If they're qualified income-wise, there's no charge for either Head Start or the state child care program or any of the services. But if a child made above a certain income level, that's when there may be a fee. Most of the kids in the program are below a certain income level. I would say all of them, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, all of them are below, so there are no charges to any of the parents and the families in the program.
I think what you're asking is, are we paid by the state to provide the child development services? And yes,
For
we're provided by the
any and
state
all students?
and the federal, for everybody.
For
If they're dual
anything?
enrolled, we do get funding for it.
Okay, so anybody that Emeryville sent you, you get reimbursed by the state?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I guess that's, if they're enrolled in the state, yes. They're all enrolled in the federal program. I don't know that they're all enrolled in the state program.
Okay, that's fine. Fair enough, thank you.
So I have a question. So first, I'd like to thank you for being here and giving us an update. I go way back with the program a while ago. I'd like to commend you on your educating the adults as well as the students. But my question for you is, what's your recruitment process, or how do you promote the apprenticeship program? And is there a cost attached to participate for the adults?
So thank you. I love talking about this program. We got funding for this program before the plane was built. And we started it last year. I've wanted to do something like this for years. So last year we started it. We sent out a notice to all the parents that were enrolled in our program and said, we're going to start an early childhood training program. Are you interested? And we heard from 25, 30 people. And so we recruited from there. We recruited from the Housing Authority in Oakland. We recruited through a couple of other neighborhood groups, but we were really trying to target Head Start parents for this first group because we were using Head Start funds to pay for the training. So the second cohort group, we did an application process, and people had to apply because word got out on the street. There is no cost to the apprentice at all at this point in time. As a result of starting this, we got a grant through SEIU, which is our staff are represented by SEIU, and LA Trade Tech College. And through a innovative apprenticeship grant, we got close to $1 million from the State Chancellor's Office of the Community Colleges. And that is funding all the classes, support services, including things like bus passes, mental health support, which we're finding we're needing with these people. And it's a lot of stress taking a lot of classes and having kids and doing it all in 6 months and working. So for a lot of people, it's become like, oh my God, am I going to be able to do this? And they're doing it. So, and then we just are working with the workforce development people to help offset the cost of the salaries and then provide additional support services, so tutoring and things like that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I do have one. I just look into the presentation, and I noticed there's basically the Samuel Merritt nurses that will visit the site, I take it. Is there any interface with the wellness center here on this campus?
So Juliet and I have talked lots about doing more interface with that, because I know she also has Samuel Merritt nurses.
Mm-hmm.
And we basically meet once a year. We talk about what each of us are doing, and we have not pulled it together yet, and I think that's something for the future. This is our first year having the Merritt nurses, and it's a new program that they've started this past year, mostly through Kaiser, paying their RNs who don't have BSN degrees, doing a community health class. And so they were targeting Head Start programs across the areas where Samuel Merritt has campuses. And so they approached us directly about setting this up. So we have 15 nurses right now assigned to a variety of our centers in 2 counties.
So basically, is it on a, they're not there all the time, but they're basically on
They're
a
there
weekly basis?
anywhere from 4 to 8 hours a week.
Okay, so 1 nurse per site thereabouts?
They work in teams of 2.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Yeah. They work in teams of 2. They're doing screening. They're doing community projects, community assessments. They have some specific course requirements they need to meet.
Okay. Well,
yeah, they're wonderful. But I will work with Juliet on this too.
Thank you.
And we also talked about placing some of the apprentices in TK or kindergarten classes down the road as well. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? If not, at this time, public comment for the guest.
Okay.
So I just want to take a moment and thank you guys for your program. Oh, I'm sorry. So I want to take a moment and thank you for your presentation and your program. I just want to make sure that you're aware that the site that you're leasing, there's some dispute about ownership and going forward with the lease. So I just want to make sure that I don't always trust Rubio to make sure that he's informed everybody of these things. But right now the tax rolls show it as a city site versus a school site, and I'm hoping we can resolve that pretty quickly. Dr. Rubio has assured us that he has the title, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. I've been waiting for, I think, over a year now. But if not, I'd hate for you guys to be planning to move in, and the city is in desperate need for space. So, and again, this is me speaking as me, not as a representative of the city. So, thank you.
So that is a sign to me from the city that if the building is theirs, then they will use, and they will kick out the children of Emeryville and other children from those facilities. Right. So, just for us
I think we can table that or wait that in city schools. So.
Yeah, I'm hesitant. It's a city. It's just really a city council issue, and I'm hesitant about a city council member standing up and discussing city council business with us right now.
Okay, I think we can. Yes, Mr. Donahue.
I just heard what the city council members that's here said. I think he gave some good advice. In other words, be aware that the situation could change, and we're still waiting for Mr. Rubio, the superintendent, to provide evidence that the school district owns it. But what I find kind of disconcerting is Mr. Vargas's comment. What he takes from that is that he thinks that is proof that the city plans on kicking children out, and I don't see that. I mean, I think that's a stretch to say that means that's what that means. I think it's kind of unseemly. I don't think you should be speaking like that. The city council member didn't say that. Didn't say he planned on kicking children out of anything. And that seems sort of, I don't know why you'd say that. It just seems unseemly. Thank you.
And I would also like to point out that this was brought up at city schools meeting.
Any other comment? Sure. Yes, please.
Yeah, I just want to say that first off, I'm really proud of the work that Pam and her team are doing. Project-based learning, making sure these kids get all the services that they need. And we found the school district to be a great partner, the special ed and John himself.
Absolutely.
As far as the future, just know that these are vulnerable kids that we're working with, and whatever we do, we're collaborative players. We're not here to make a mess, but we need a head start because it's not easy. One of the things that we're finding in our East and West Oakland opportunities to serve more lower-income kids is that the spaces available to serve lower-income kids there's just a great deficit. And with the real estate values being what they are, these kids are always on the back of the bus. So I just ask everyone to keep that in mind. I think that we've always found school board to be fairly forthright and just keep us posted and give us lots and lots of notice, because this would be terribly disruptive if it were quick. Yeah. Okay? Thank you.
Right, thank you.
And thanks for all your great work. We appreciate it.
With that, any...
Ruth Major. That was great, Pam. I want to say I'm very excited that you've taken that model of having training and being on the floor working, because we tried to do that in the 90s. Janet Gonzalez-Mena, Dora Pulido Tobias, and me, and several others. We tried again at the beginning of 2000, and we just couldn't get the funding and couldn't get people on board with that was the way to go, to have everyone on site, have them on the floor, and then doing that sort of real practical work, and then having classes and being able to bring up the issues of what was happening on the floor. So I am overjoyed that you have done that, because I remember talking to you about many years ago. So I'm so happy that it's such a great model, and I'm so glad you're doing it. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? I know this was an information-only item, so if that's the case, we can move on to the next item.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
If you get a chance. Thank you. Good night.
That's item 9.4,
Item
ECCL
9.4.
audit.
Sure. Item 9.4, a request was made to continue the conversation regarding the idea of auditing the ECCL project or Measure J as it relates to the ECCL project. The request is to have an update on any audit parameters that maybe Member Inch and Member Collins may have with them this evening, and to have a discussion of a possible financial audit of all Measure J funds spent, and information regarding cost and types of audits. I believe we have members of the public tonight who would like to speak on this, and I don't know if Member Inch or Member Collins want to share anything.
Let's go ahead and start from the board side. Is there any questions you would like to ask Dr. Rubio pertaining to this subject?
Or information to present.
Yeah, information.
I'd like to ask if we are coming to the table with a proposal for what the audit should look like. So I think that was the main takeaway.
Well, I think we'll move on to, well, I mean, yes, you're correct, Mr. Vargas. As it stands now, I mean, we're investigating what this is going to look like if we go forward.
So it's a general discussion over what, okay, got it.
It is.
So I did meet with Member Collins, and we talked about the scope, and I've written down some things, and we talked about it. There, basically, the audit shall include, but it shouldn't be limited to the following tasks: examine financial records, reports, written procedures, contract documents, and other materials related to the project, and compare current practices and procedures with the requirements and best practices in the industry. Interview key individuals involved in the project, identify significant deficiencies, if any, in the following areas: project background, design cost, construction bid process, construction change orders, project management and inspection services, major equipment and materials, closeout documents, liquidated damages, accounting, and then prepare a written report for findings and recommendations. That's my start, or a start.
And Member Inch, do you mind if can we get a copy of that so we can get it to the board members and for Lisa and I?
When I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay. In order to keep the process going, I would suggest we could, if the time factor on that.
I'm not sure when the next board meeting, when this will be on the next board meeting agenda. Is it going to be on the next agenda?
I think that's up to the board. I mean, I think we have a lot of input the community wants to share for us tonight, so I think if the conversation needs to continue, it should continue.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's continue the conversation.
I'm sorry?
Then we can go ahead and continue the conversation.
All right. Okay. Any other comments from the board? And let's open it up to public comment. Please step up to the podium.
Lisa Ballantyne, Turner Construction. There was I wasn't here at the last board meeting, but I believe that there was some public speaking or some public comments made about the affiliation of the Turner Group Construction versus Turner Construction Company. And I actually don't have any documents, only because there is zero affiliation. The Turner Group Construction is a Oakland, I believe privately owned. If you go to their website, you can look at the Turner Group. Turner Construction is a company founded in 1902 in New York City. We did precast concrete stairs. And over the course of over 100 years, we now have maybe 40 offices throughout the country. We are very local here in the Bay. We've been here for 50 years. But our CEO resides in New York City, Peter Davern. We have he's our president and CEO. I'm the general manager here in the Bay. We have an executive vice president that does the West Coast. So just to clarify, there's no documents because it's Whiting Turner is not Turner Construction. Turner Construction is not the Turner Group, so there really is no ownership. It's not the same company. Unfortunately, we share the same name, Turner, but that really is just to clarify if there's any questions around that. I don't know what to supply per se, but I wanted to just clarify that because I believe that there was some misunderstandings. I do know that the Turner Group had been in the paper. That is not us.
We appreciate the clarification very much.
Additional public comment?
Okay, yeah, to refute the previous commenters, member of the public commenting, I'm here on Turner Group Construction site. It says Turner Group Construction. Principal partners, Turner Group Construction would like to offer sincere thank you to blah, 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 blah. And here are our principal partners. Number one principal partner, Turner Construction. Number two, Swinnerton Builders, and there's a few others. So here, I'll let the camera see this. Here, walk up. Right, full speaking. Focus. You see that? You can see Turner Construction is Turner Group Construction's primary partner, principal partner. So Turner Group Construction's principal partner is Turner Construction. So just so everybody understands that. But the point is not that. The point is how has Turner Construction done vis-a-vis overcharging its clients? Not Turner Group, I mean Turner Construction. Well, we found that they have indeed overcharged many of their clients, not the least of which is here we have one from Los Angeles School District, overcharged $190,000, Turner Construction, on a $98 million project, which is the exact same size as this project. So we could, theoretically, we could get back 190 if they overcharged us as much as Los Angeles. Here's Santa Clara, cost overruns and delays, and they had an audit, and then Turner was caught overcharging them. I mean, there's a long list of Turner Construction, not Turner Group, but Turner Construction overcharging its clients, and they get caught by auditing. Now, we paid Swinnerton Construction $1.2 million or something like that to help us, to represent us at, during the construction of this project. And then what we found from Swinnerton is that they are in bed with Turner. I mean, it was time and time and time again, Swinnerton was making excuses for Turner. And you would expect it to be that case because commonly on other projects it's the other way around. It's Swinnerton is the construction company and Turner is the company that the client pays to look out after their interests. So they scratch each other's backs, Turner and Swinnerton. So we got a bad product for $1.2 million from Swinnerton. And my blog, the Emeryville Tattler, has made many proofs of that, not the least of which is the swimming pool fiasco. Essentially what we find is Turner overcharges its clients. So the one area here with this project that wasn't part of the upper limit mandated cost, I've forgotten the name of the jargon, the one part that was not part of that shall not charge more than clause was the swimming pool. And huge cost overruns on that, and we paid over $2 million for the swimming pool. And I looked up swimming pool on the web, like what would you expect to pay for a swimming pool about this size? And I found out you would expect to pay for top end quality about $1 million. We paid $2 million. And Swinnerton,
You're out of time.
Swinnerton told us that Turner wasn't overcharging.
Thank you, Mr. Donahue.
So we need an audit of Turner Construction, not Turner Group. Thank you.
Ms. Valentine, before you say something, I'm just going to say that I'm... Miss Valentine. Oh, I'm
No,
sorry. Is Member
no,
Pat,
another additional-
Mr.
another-
Patz, are you waiting? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize. I didn't see him.
I don't think she's doing public comment. I thought you brought her here to speak on the thing, so it's not
Could
in
you
order.
please bring her
Sorry. I'll listen to whatever he says, but I just assume she's here to speak as an expert, not as public comment. I don't understand the hesitance to do an audit, and it's basically $100 million, and construction is messy, construction is complicated. I know when Member Bowders spoke at the city schools meeting, he mentioned Turner was under indictment, and I made the same mistake, and I looked into it, and it's Turner Group, it's Turner Construction, they're separate. Don works for, I think, DLM Architectures. But what we know about construction, what we know about architecture, what we know about spending $100 million of taxpayer money, and I'm one of the few homeowners in town, I personally write a check every year for this thing, and you're going to spend $1.5 million more tonight of my money, because I'm staying for a long time in town, and I'm paying my property tax, and thank you, I know, others in the town are. So I don't think it's unreasonable if you're going to spend $1.5 million more this evening and sell these bonds to use part of those funds to make sure that we did a good job. I am incredulous that President Merriam is like, oh no, construction's nice and simple. LA Unified, because it's a large district, audits every construction project and finds money every time, right? Turner built Levi Stadium. It didn't go as well as they would like, right? It happens. People audit projects all the time. It's not going to cost $1 million what Swinnerton mentioned. That's what they charge. You put it out to bid, you're looking somewhere for $40,000 to $80,000, and the return on that could be significant. And this idea that you're asking a board member or two board members to write the proposal is ludicrous. You task that to staff. That is their job. That is why you have them. Putting out an RFP for an audit is not rocket science. The audit part is. You've asked the COC, and in a few minutes people are going to talk to you about what a train wreck the COC was. Okay? They did not do a good job of auditing the project, not through any fault of the members, but because they got guidance first from an architect who worked for the district who did a crappy job. Just ask Swinnerton. They'll tell you, right? And Donna, you just explained what a wonderful job Swinnerton did. I sat here for change order after change order after change order. If you don't want to track these dollars, it's because you don't want to upset people you work with, President Merriam. That is my belief. And I find that absurd. Audits are done. They are not ludicrous. There was not enough oversight on this project. Money has flown out the door to the point that you are going to tonight try to spend $1.5 million more because this place ain't what it's supposed to be. And you're not going to hold anybody accountable. You're not going to look into design flaws. You're not going to chase the money. So it's ridiculous. So.
Hello, Shirley Inamoto. I used to live here. I moved away last year. I'm a former member of the COC, and I want to thank Christian Pass for what he just said. He articulated it 10 times better than I could.
I guess there's not a whole lot more I can add, but I agree with Christian about this resistance to doing an audit. I don't understand it, and I feel like sometimes when I talk to Superintendent Rubio, he should be working for Turner and not for the school district. He is so adamant about the fact that an audit isn't necessary, it's too expensive, it's a waste of his time. This is like, you work for the district, you don't work for Turner, and we're on the line for $100 million. And so, and I agree with Kristen too that it's a staff, it's a staff job to come up with an RFP for a bid, for bids. And I think that, a financial audit, a performance audit, whatever you want to call it, basically we want to know what was spent, what it was spent for, what we got for our money, what we didn't get for our money, and what our recourse is. I mean, yeah, this building, as Brenda has said, we didn't get what we paid for. And so the representative from Turner can talk about, punch lists and, this building is not up to par. It's just plain and simple. And at the last board meeting, staff teachers, students, and board members all complained about problems with the building, which I guess isn't even a year old, right? I mean, this is the first school year. So I think the sooner that the board and Mr. Rubio and Turner acknowledge that there are real problems with this project, the sooner we can move on and solve the problem and take care of the district and the students and the taxpayers. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If not, then we can go through discussion. Discuss it amongst the board. Anybody have any items or comments regarding what was just said?
I would like to say that Emeryville voters have been very, very generous. Our population is around 10,000. It's not a big population, but our population of children is around 6. Yet the Emeryville voters, 600, yet the Emeryville voters voted to support the schools time and time again. And I feel like all they're asking for is some reassurance. They want to know that there's transparency. They don't necessarily want to know that something horrible happened, but they want to know if something went wrong, that we're going to take care of it, we're going to identify it, and that we're going to show good faith to the public that we can own this project and not just wash things away and say everything's okay. I am still not saying that we're going to find something egregious. I'm saying, wouldn't it be great if we go through this process, everybody's satisfied, we find a few things, and the public relation, the community, would be reassured. They would feel better because they continue to support us, even though a lot of families, or I'm sorry, not family, a lot of people in Emeryville don't have children. They want to support the children that come here, even if they're not even from Emeryville. They want to support us. And I want to give them good reason to continue to support us and to feel good about it. Thank you.
Member Cruz?
My main concern with this discussion is the high level of passion that folks have expressed on this, but maybe not passion in the good sense. I see a lot of personal attacks against from former board members or now city council. I've heard a lot of personal attacks from the media. I've heard a lot of personal attacks from other city council members against folks that are here in the board and against our superintendent. That is a huge concern of mine because in my mind, I am beginning to question their motivation and their motivation behind pushing for this. And it's tough for me to question whether there's some political motivation behind this or not. And it's something that's, honestly, I question this every single time we talk about this, where every single time there are personal attacks. And I think that if you really, really wanted to move this forward, if you really, really wanted transparency, then there's no need for personal attacks. And so for me personally, it's very tough to move forward when the tone gets personal. And anyways, I just wanted to put my two cents in there. This is where I am.
I would like to reassure you that we represent the community and the students, and we don't represent Dr. Rubio. We're not here to support Dr. Rubio, and we are here to listen to the people that come forth. There are people here that have spoken, and it's our responsibility to take the community's ideas and thoughts and feelings about this.
I'd like to add something here. We've come upon a number of witnesses to this endeavor, and as far as I think we're coming around to an idea that where we can actually get our wrap our heads around. And that's the problem that I've had regarding this discussion, is that I've talked to my peers, I've talked to many professionals regarding this, and when a blanket statement goes out pertaining to an audit, first thing would be a financial audit, which is, there's no objection to that, but when it starts elaborating into the destructive testing to find out what's behind the walls, that's unless there was, you know, an unfortunate situation where something were to, anyway, it comes down is that to use dollars wisely when it comes to investigating or doing due diligence, and our responsibility, our fiduciary responsibility of the board is there. And it's not that we don't want to do it, it's just that what are we going to do? And this conversation revolving around multiple types of audits, it's difficult to even grasp the magnitude of those. And there's a cost associated. I think Dr. Rubio was correct in the cost associated with an elaborate audit. Now, if you get into the financials, yes, you can enter into contracts or RFPs and contracts for services to do that. So I just clarifying the request. That's what is basically a needs for discussion, not to have this an elaborate, you know, procession of this, and this. It's difficult to even come to any resolution. So what I'm trying to stress is that, yes, an audit may be in the cards, but it's just that what type of audit. That's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of, as far as what's the request. And then to have Dr. Rubio or his staff come up with a litany of audits, it's too broad of a question to ask. And if there's means to do it, yes, let's do it, but not to the point where we're all over the road. That's all I'm asking. Yes.
I just have a question with the personal attacks comment. Are there like restrictions on what public comment is supposed to say? Because as far as I've seen, public comment is just what the community feels and what they want to say. And I mean, in the end, we like the board is the one like voting. So I think public comment is like, you know, they get to say what they want to say, because like we are supposed to be open to what the public wants, and like since we are servicing the public, we are servicing our community, just to take in the input, and it's kind of on us to choose what influences us, like pick and choose what is how we want to vote, and let public comment just be open to what people want to share, because it should be a good thing that they feel comfortable enough to share things to us on a camera.
I will add, just to answer your question. It's a very good question. I think it's important what you just said, that the board and the school boards across the country, they're designed to take public comment. Just so you know, it's from a legal standpoint, it's a little bit different than a person standing on a corner and having their free speech completely open to them. Council meetings and board meetings are considered legally to be, I forget the term, a limited forum. So if a member stands up at the community and curses, which has unfortunately occurred, different things like that, it is not typically legally something that's permissible. So a community member could lose their right to come to meetings. They could be asked to not, they can be legally required to not be able to attend for a while. So, so it's a great question, and I agree with what you said. I just wanted to let you know that since you asked the question. It's a very good question.
No, I was just wondering, because like there is the 3-minute time limit, which is fine, but it's like, and the whole like cursing, I understand, like that's where respect comes in. But yeah, I was just wondering if there are like rules on what we can and can't say.
Yeah, and I'll add for the board's information, I recently was talking to one of our business community members who said they feel like there is a real lack of professionalism on city council and the school board, and their opinion was that distracts us from our real business of children and students. And I agree with them on that. I think it's a distracting thing. It becomes personal, and unfortunately, it doesn't allow us to talk enough about students. I'm just going to add one other thing, I'm sorry. I appreciate Member Patz's comments, Councilmember Patz's comments, sorry, Mr. Patz, regarding that he said I made the same mistake when he was talking about what people thought was the formal business relationship or familial or family relationship between Turner and Turner, the two different companies. And I worry about sort of us jumping to conclusions without more data. So I have a suggestion that maybe, I mean, we had inspectors, and I think they're independent when they're on construction jobs. You know, maybe, but I also think the conversation should continue. If there's any members of the community who feel like the conversation should continue, I think that's something I want to recommend to the board that the board stay open to that. And maybe we need to have the inspectors of record come and say, look, you were here on the job. What did you see? Maybe we need to have Swinnerton come back and Turner come back. I know I appreciate Ms. Valentine being here, but I mean, I would just recommend the superintendent to the board that we have as much data available, community concerns, our list of things that have not been fixed yet, inspectors of record. If that's helpful, that's just a thought.
I have a comment. I'm interested in hearing from the inspectors, and I also would like to say that in the last meeting, one of the echoing Member Merriam's comments, part of the problem to me was that the scope was very nebulous and undefined, and I appreciate Member Inch you bringing some clarity in what you're interested in, and I look forward to when you're ready to share your recommendations or your scope. I look forward to seeing those.
Any other comments from the board?
May I respond?
Go ahead.
I think you brought up an excellent question, and I agree wholeheartedly with a couple of things that Superintendent Rubio said. I agree with the profanity thing. I think there's a level of decorum. But very specifically, you hit the nail on the head. The Brown Act, which is what requires the public comment, actually has a very clear, yes, people may come up and may criticize staff. That is not disregarded. And I think that was the point of what your question was. You're absolutely right. We get up here, we have 3 minutes as members of the public, and one of the things that you cannot say, no, that's not on topic, is when we're critical of staff. And, and so when you say I've made this personal, it troubles me that would be deciding the issue, oh, I don't like the way they said it, as opposed to the content of what they say. And you're right, I do use personal attacks because I'm incredulous at the decisions. When people make poor decisions that impact children and taxpayers, and I can go through teacher retention, I can go through test scores, I can go through the climate here, I can go through falling buildings. I take that very, very personally. This is my money, this is my community, these are kids. I'm an educator. I spend every day of my life working for the city and working for students. And so, yeah, I take it very personally, and I do lobby personal attacks. And the nice thing is, to bring it back around to what you said, that's what the 3 minutes are for. And I thank you, President Merriam, for giving me 3 more minutes. And I'm going to, I call him like I see him. I think what Dr. Rubio said at the end there was absolutely brilliant. I think bringing everybody in and having a study session and a big discussion and narrowing it down is probably not a bad idea. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree too that we should focus on the content of what we're asking for and not how we asked for it. So I guess what troubles me too is we've come here repeatedly and asked for an audit, and Barbara Inch gave a very detailed description of what she was looking for, and I think I gave a pretty good description. And I guess it's disappointing that the staff and the board have not actually done some of the homework that I've done and Barbara has done, that we've asked for this, but you're basically like, well, you tell us exactly what you want, and maybe we'll consider it, instead of, well, wow, that's an interesting question, and maybe we should all explore that question and see what kind of audit makes sense. So I did some research. So there's certain types of audits. There are many kinds. But you mentioned something about getting behind a wall. I wasn't sure what you were talking about. But basically, we want a financial audit. So it's pretty simple. You figure out how much money you spent and what it was spent for, and if you got what you thought you were going to get. There's also something called the performance audit. There's lots of information online. There's also something called the forensic audit, which determines if there has been fraud or waste. And then there's something called an integrated audit, which is when you combine several of those different audits to get a very comprehensive look at a project. So it didn't take me very long, a couple of hours online over the last couple of days to get the kind of information that I was looking for. And also many, as Christian and Brian have said, many school districts have done audits of big projects. It's pretty standard. And frequently they have found malfeasance, or they've been overcharged, or there's been bid rigging, whatever. So I think that it would be nice if the board and the staff actually participated in this quest we have to determine what kind of audit would make sense for the school district and for the taxpayers and the students. So I'd like the conversation to continue. I'll continue to investigate, and I hope that you would too. Thank you.
So first of all, I'd like to thank the board president, Miriam, for allowing a greater discussion here than the legal minimum. So I thank you for that. You're allowing us to speak twice, and then the Turner representative might now I presume you could speak again if you so desired, since the board president has allowed us to speak twice. So thank you to the board president. I think it's entirely appropriate, given the small size here. That's good. More discussion, more transparency is better. Now, regarding the charges leveled here tonight by Mr. Rubio, at me specifically, because I have used profanity here into this mic, but people here should consider the irony of the fact that I've used profanity. It's ironic. First of all, I never have used any profanity ever until very recently. And now I'm doing it pretty much every meeting. What happened? And when I explain it, that's where you'll see the irony. The irony is I'm quoting decision makers here at Emery Unified School District. The profanity I use is not the profanity that's generated by me. The profanity I use is profanity generated by district leaders, official district leaders at official meetings. And that's the profanity I'm using. So it's not coming from me. It's coming from Mr. Rubio, from COC member Kravchuk, decision maker, Measure J COC. And that's the derivation of the profanity. So. And then for Mr. Rubio to now be calling into question or calling out the unseemliness of me using profanity is ironic, and I could use a lot of other adjectives, not the least of which is it's extremely off-putting. In other words, the profanity should come from on high down to the underlings, down to the smaller people, the parents and the citizens. It should come from on high, the decision makers going down. We should not be punching up, so says Mr. Rubio. He is reserving the right to punch down. So I think it's unseemly and it's inappropriate. And so I'm going to continue telling people about this problem here at Emery Unified School District. It's a cultural problem here, and that is that the parents and the citizens are sort of pushed down by the decision makers, and this profanity thing is a really good example of that. So thank you for bringing that up.
I wonder if any of you have ever sat on an oversight committee. As I said in my letter, I was on the committee starting in March, whatever it was, 2011. If you saw how disorganized the committee was, there was no policy, we had no responsibilities, we didn't see any paid invoices, we had no influence or control. That was all left to the district and the city schools. That's okay with me. But when you see the discrepancy in the first reports I got of monthly paid invoices, you had a date, a check number, a payee that said development, and then you would see $500,000. Who is development? You had duplicate check numbers. When you see what I saw going through every paid item, that is why I am asking for a financial audit. And Member Vargas, you say we speak with passion and maybe what's our motivation? I can't help it. I have a passion for Emeryville schools, and that's why I volunteered time to Anna Yates, and I worked in the library. And so I know a little bit about the history here, and that's why I'm here tonight and speaking out. And I can write another page, one-page letter to you about what I've heard tonight that would exceed 3 minutes. Thank you.
All right, let's wrap up with comments from the board.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Ms. Vargas.
My goal, my personal goal, is to prevent politics to get in the way of moving our district forward. And while everybody has the right to free speech, when we resource to personal attacks, I have a personal right to interpret those and to question what is the motivation behind them. And I believe it's my duty to try to differentiate between political motivation and the general desire for the well-being of our district. And I've always said in the various sessions that we've spoken about this subject, and I've always asked for evidence because it seemed like everybody or a lot of people seemed to believe that there was some wrongdoing. And with every person I spoke to about this subject, I always said, well, if you believe there is wrongdoing, and if you have evidence for us, or if you can guide us or have reason to believe that there is wrongdoing, then why not share that? Why not share that instead of resourcing again to political attacks? I'm still speaking, I'm sorry. And up until tonight, I had not heard anything that would lead us to believe that that was the case, up until your comment just a couple of seconds ago of you mentioning that you saw duplicate checks and that you saw other items that seemed to be irregular. And I appreciate you bringing those up, and I genuinely do. And that to me is reason to believe that we should take a closer look at this. So I appreciate it. Absolutely.
I don't see the equivalent of asking for an audit as an attack or as an accusation. I just want to put that on record that the request for an audit is not an attack and it's not any insinuation. People perform audits, it's not an insinuation. It's merely the request for an audit to restore faith.
No, requesting an audit is not a personal attack. However, there's plenty of evidence in the recordings of this where we've resorted to personal attacks to the board president and the superintendent from the same people asking for the audit. So
I'm going to add something, if I may. I think Mr. Donahue is correct when he said there's a cultural problem here. I believe it's a mindset issue, to be honest with you. There is a tendency, and it's not just here, I think it's a human tendency to focus on the negative. In fact, it troubles some people in the community when I continue to point out the positive things and that we're growing, we're improving every year, and they want to dispute that. I'm not trying to sell a rosy picture. I don't think the district has arrived in any way, but my interest here is seeing us improve every year, improve in the quality of our teachers every year, which we've been doing, and improve in our programs. We've added program after program. We've got music and art back into place. We've expanded art. We've expanded science. We need to do a lot more for the high school students as well. But my interest is really, and my mindset is very different. I am looking for growth, and I think it's important. I tell the teachers, I hope that's the way you're looking at our students, because all of our teachers don't look that way. When I read the research of Carol Dweck from Stanford on mindset, as a parent, I felt terrible because I can remember how focused I was on performance with my daughter and playing soccer growing up. And I thought, God, what a terrible job I did as a father. And so it's a real mindset, you know, are we willing to look at growth and progress, or are we only going to look at the negative? And that concerns me in our city and here in our school district. So I don't think we've arrived by any means. I'm doing my best, and I'll continue to do my best for as long as I can. And that's the best I can do, is promise that. I appreciate the community's comments tonight. I think one thing I expressed before is that I think one of you just said a moment ago, is we haven't had any evidence of malfeasance. We haven't had any evidence of wrongdoing. My personal direct knowledge of watching Swinnerton and Turner was that Swinnerton monitored everything Turner did. If Turner seemed like they were doing something incorrect, I saw Swinnerton come down on them. If Swinnerton wasn't meeting my expectations, there were a few times I came down on Swinnerton. I do not have an emotional need to stand in public and let people know that. I'm sharing that tonight because I feel like I should say it. But so for me, there's an issue of how we treat one another. We can disagree, but I do believe that there's a lot more common ground we have. And so while staff has not been spending time researching this, and I really do appreciate what Ms. Schroth and what Member Inch has discovered regarding the information, so thank you for bringing that forward. In part, just to be honest, it was because, you know, we don't have any evidence of anything. I didn't see anything to lead me to believe that Turner was in partnership with Swinnerton. They're competitors, they're fierce competitors when they bid on jobs, as far as I know. And so, however, there still is questions. And I think Ms. Enomoto, I heard about the meetings of the COC in 2011 and 2012, and I heard some of the things she shared. I heard about in the past, and I think there's very good questions by Ms. Enomoto. So, but I do just want to put out there, I'm worried about the mindset that we have as adults, because I think we need to look for progress, and it doesn't mean we're hiding what's not working. It means we're trying to improve. And I hope, if you haven't read the book by Carol Dweck on mindset, I'd recommend it.
All right, thank you, Dr. Rubio. Any other comments from the board?
Yeah, I'd like to say that this whole discussion about what the scope of the audit needs to be and how difficult it is, it really reminds me of somebody that doesn't want to do what they're asked. Like, when I ask my son to clean his room, he comes back and says it's going to take too much time. He comes back and says it's too much work. And then he comes back to me and says, I don't even know what you want me to do. I don't know how to do it. And that, to me, is just kind of what I feel like is happening here. There's a resistance to an audit, and it's getting very convoluted with a lot of details, when in actuality, I have scoped what I think needs to be requested, and I don't understand why we don't just say, go clean your room.
I would love to see what you've requested. You told us orally today. I need some more time to consider it and really kind of think about what you've requested and what we've talked about tonight. And I'd like to continue the discussion.
Yeah. And I would like to know when and if that's going to be put on an agenda again.
Well, as soon as we receive what you presented tonight, I heard pieces of it. I don't have it by memory. I would really appreciate seeing it, if you don't mind, just to make sure we're on target. And then we can continue the conversation. If the board wants to give me direction to have Ms. Emery and I schedule the inspectors of record, I believe there were 2, Mr. Merriam, on this job. So we can bring in the people that we need to have here. I think really we should make sure that the public is, again, aware of our percentages on this project, of where, you know, there was, I don't know how to say correctly, expenditures beyond what the planned expenditures were for the scope, and what percentage we were over, and how that compares to a typical construction job, which we've had them present before. I think we should get everybody in the room, put all the data out there, and then as a board, you have to decide how you want to direct me. And if the board, as an entire board, directs me, then I'll go ahead and do what you ask.
Thank you.
Okay, as that item was for this is continuation of this discussion for a future board meeting.
Yeah, and
We'll
we can
continue the
meet-
conversation.
Mhm.
And with that being said, we have information from
Sorry,
Member
so
Inch.
if I may, sorry for interjecting, just because I had misinterpreted what the next step was. I was hoping that we have something to vote for, or to vote on the next session.
Well, right now, it's an information item. My suggestion to the
We don't
board is
have-
that.
We don't have an action item to vote now. I
That's right.
understand that. However, I'm suggesting that maybe we have an item to vote on the next session, rather than continuing the discussion.
No, I agree with you, Member Vargas. I'm thinking that we, just through basically through discussion through Member Inch, and she's provided at least an outline, detailed outline, then we can basically start creating what the motion shall be, or what the final discussion item will be, and then we can vote on, make a motion and vote on it.
So we'll bring that back as soon as possible. I
Yeah.
don't know that it would be the next meeting in 2 weeks, but we'll bring it back as soon as we can.
And also, I would like to say that these are merely my suggestions. I definitely want
Sure.
community input.
Yeah, and I think when you go
We'd
through.
like to see 'em.
Yeah, and I think.
I appreciate it.
And I think with discussion through legal, it'll help, basically craft this RFP and proposal for public consumption. So I think this is a process we're doing. It's not where we don't want to get, we're not putting it off. It's just, this is a hard process because we're creating a motion. We're creating a motion for us to act on. And I want to make sure that we have the proper information to make the right decision. That's all what it boils down to.
Yeah, and that's why I say that to automatically assume that we would be able to take action on it is a bit presumptuous, because we're going to try to take some steps, include the community, and that's not something that would happen in one school board meeting.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, with that was information only, discussion items, and we'll move on to the next item.
Yeah. Our next item is, I believe, 9.5, yes?
That is correct. It's 2017 general obligation bond issuance overview, refunding, and Series F.
We're going to just give Member Bailey a moment to, I'm sorry, Member Bailey, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was trying to help you. You go.
I will be recusing myself for items 9.5 and 9.6.
Member Bailey, do you want my keys to stay in the enter the building, conference room? Oh, let's see here. Let me point that right to you. That's right. You can get it. Master key, go wherever you like. Thank you.
Superintendent Rubio,
Yes.
while he's sitting up, would now be a good time? At the last meeting, you said you would present us with a list or a budget suggestions?
Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, and I apologize. I thought it was Member Collins who wanted that list, and you may be correct. I don't recall if I was supposed to give it to all of you, so I did post it, and I'm going to pass it out right now to you, and I'll put a few out to the community. Let me pass that down. Thank you. And I'm sorry. I thought it was for Member Collins, and I gave her this a couple weeks ago. My apologies.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways to move it.
Thank you.
The light. That was nice.
Like my sunset.
I thought something was weird.
Were you able to pick it up? Were you able to pick up the kind of the quaint mood? Waiting for Member Vargas.
Yeah, we'll wait. Sure.
Superintendent Rubio?
Oh, I had it. Promise you it's there. The lady needs some. Oh, you got it.
you think it'd be all right if we get back into it? With
I'm sorry?
What do you think it should get back?
We could,
I
who
know
are
we
we
didn't
missing?
take
Member
up an
Vargas?
official- Yeah, we're waiting for Member Vargas.
While we're waiting, would not be negotiate. I find this very helpful, but I'm wondering when you.
Actually, let's wait for the presentation, if that's all okay with you.
Well, I didn't think the presentation was going to cover his list, and I thought we were waiting for Vargas for the presentation.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Is that okay?
I couldn't hear.
She has some
I
questions.
have some questions about the list.
Oh, sure, I think it's okay. Go ahead.
Suggestions.
Let's do that.
It's very useful. I was wondering.
And these are estimates. These are my best estimates right now.
And so 80 would be an estimate for how many storage units? That I'm just looking.
Oh,
to see.
that is a pretty close to accurate estimate. That would be for every classroom in the K-8 building. Our teachers really have been asking for additional storage. We had somebody go through, we took measurements. That would be every single classroom. In addition, Member Inch, I had some measurements done for the 2 large hallway areas on the bottom first floor, because we're trying to find a way, and the city has been open to that, where we can actually store their materials for the after-school program. So that actually includes storage so that we can potentially offload a lot of the city's materials. The city has part of the class that sells both of those things.
I'm sorry, but I still understand the lack, like we say, 2 new copy machines, but then it just says computers for students. It doesn't say a number. And the same thing for the storage units. I understand that they'd be custom.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I can
just
elaborate.
looking for numbers.
I can elaborate for you if you like. Do you want me to? May I do that now while we're waiting for Member Vargas? He may ask the same question.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like
You wanna
to
wait?
hold
I'll
this
elaborate.
conversation, please, just because
Okay.
I think it's pertinent to
Sure.
our
So how about this?
discussion.
Member Inch, as soon as Mr. Vargas comes back in, why don't I start with that and elaborate?
That's great.
Sure.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Where do you go, restroom? What was your lollipop? I forgot about that gate.
As we were speaking before, talking about before, this is
Item-
2017
yeah.
general obligation bond.
Yeah, item
insurance
9.5.
overview. Item 9.5.
Mr. Greenlee, thank you for being with us. Just if I could start with a little bit of clarification based on a request from Member Inch before Mr. Vargas came in. Member Vargas, there's a list in front of you with potential expenditures that I passed it out to the community members here. Member Inch wanted me to elaborate a little bit on this, which is fine. The second item, well, the first item, the Turner closeout, is the current estimate that I have. We're still waiting for some. These are not numbers, I think, from Turner specifically. In the Turner budget, I believe we have some items regarding insurance, and I forget, is it,
I believe it had to do with the length of the contract that was on site. There's insurance to need to be carried for him to be on site, and this was an expense to be.
That's a big part of this, that's right. So it's not, Turner is not asking for more money, it's us trying to estimate what's the final number for us to, from an accounting perspective, to close out the project. And there's a few other items we're waiting to wrap up. So that's my current estimate. Teacher requested storage for classrooms. That would be additional storage in every single classroom in the K-8 building, the TK-8 building, as well as the 2 first floor hallways, because we'd like to also see if we can get the city to offload quite a bit of their materials from the classrooms, which they're open to. We're trying to get out of the business of leasing copy machines. One thing I found when I arrived a few years ago was that the district was paying, I thought, too much for leases and even the copy rate. And so as part of moving into the new building and purchasing furniture, fixtures, and expenditures, we actually have some long-term cost savings by doing that. Computers for students, our goal per the local control accountability plan that the board approved last summer was to have a computing device in the hand of every student. With that, however, means we need to have a lot of systems and policies in place, because I know the district had problems back in 2011, I think, with some Chromebooks or iPads, and so we have a lot to put into place, but the goal is for us to have students have devices. We have some furniture requests that we're trying to process now from the library, and we had some student furniture. We had to bring over some of the older desks from Anna Yates, the old Anna Yates, and in a few classrooms, and it was unfortunately luck of the draw which teachers had to use the older used furniture versus getting new furniture, which most classrooms received. So, and then I did also add on here, related to our previous conversation, the potential use of money, whether it's 50,000 or 100,000, whatever it is, for a potential audit of the ECCL project. I double-checked with bond counsel, and they said yes, because I just wanted to be sure that if the board approves this tonight, this would be a source that's fine for that, for an audit. So, does that kind of answer, Member Inch?
Well, and then just, I was asking for the numbers, how many storage units?
So if it's one for every classroom in the K-8 building, I believe, I believe we have about 20 to 22 classrooms. So it'll be every classroom plus the 2 large hallways. Some of these have to be custom cut and measured because every classroom is a little different. I'm thinking of some of the first grade classrooms. The walls.
I don't have it.
Oh, okay.
I need exact numbers. Just give me a guess.
20 to 22 classrooms.
Okay, and then how many computers?
Well, if we have, if it's one for every student, we are endeavoring to have 700 computers for 700 students.
And desks, you said, was kind of hit or miss. You weren't sure.
The desks, presentation stations, that was by teacher request, and I would suspect it's about a combination of about 20 to 30 desks across 12 classrooms.
And that's giving the choice for teachers to have a certain type of desk within their room, right?
Yeah, some of them wanted both. Some of them have a presentation station, and some of them also have the electric one that allows them to stand.
Okay. I know that there's been a request, and I know it's this, maybe getting into the details as far as file cabinet space or just like drawer space within their desk. I mean, that may be the desk that chose and that has the ability to have drawers within it. Anyway, so that's something to be debated.
And we can look at that, yeah, absolutely. I have heard that before. Anyway, that's a little bit of background on how we think we could spend the money.
Appreciate it. A very quick question. Do you know what percentage of these or what expenses of these should be covered by with the split of the school and versus city, or is this all bond money?
This would be bond money. The question you're asking is a little tricky. Let me just think about it. This would be, let me just think for a second. I think this is pretty much us. None of this is, I believe this would be us.
I only ask because I remember seeing maybe that Turner closeout amount was positioned as part of the.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Philosophically speaking, there's a very strong argument, I think, in my mind, that since we put in $7 million in addition that we weren't supposed to put in, and the city hasn't put in anything. Yes, from a philosophical perspective, I think it's unethical that the city isn't adding anything to this and not paying for that. Yes. Another topic, though.
Ms. Collins?
In addition to the front office reception door, I think we were talking about bulletin boards to making
we can add
education visible.
Particularly you mean the hallways over here?
I mean the hallways in both buildings, there are no bulletin boards, and it looks like no classrooms.
Okay.
It's a school, and we need to make our learning visible.
The high schools are more of a challenge because of the lockers, but we can look. Mr. Davis had an idea to do something above the lockers for some projects, so we can look at that, and certainly we can come up with some solutions over here.
I mean, I don't want to get into the kind of,
anyway,
this becomes a wish list, but I want to add mine.
We're getting a little pretty deep in details, but any members, if you want to email me anything that you think is missing, I'll be happy to look at that.
Right, thank you.
And maybe we should turn to Mr. Greenlee.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, Mr. Greenlee.
President Merriam and members of the board, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here today. I was here a few meetings ago, and the numbers and what I presented to you have not really changed much. The interest rate market and all of the financial indicators have remained relatively the same, but I wanted to make sure I was here and that I was present because you will be voting on tonight 2 resolutions. There you go. 2 resolutions that are going to be looking at approving 2 different bond issuances, one for a refunding and one for a new money issuance. And again, I wanted to go through some of the highlights so that you have the opportunity to ask any questions, as well as to just be reminded of some of the key factors that go into this decision that you'll be making. So just a little background on Measure J. To date, there have been 5 issuances for a total of around $70 million. So the bulk of the bonds have been issued. You have roughly $25 million remaining to be issued. And currently, the repayment ratio for the existing bonds that have been outstanding is roughly about a 2.4, which means that they're all very well structured and they are below what we consider a state maximum of 4 times. So you have what I would consider a very good portfolio of bonds currently outstanding. Okay.
Before you go on, I just have a quick question for you.
Yes.
Because with the if possible reissuance, will this ratio change? The 2.43 to 1 with the future?
On your whole portfolio, yes, it would go
Okay.
down slightly.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So what has happened, which has happened to many districts, many municipalities throughout the state as well as throughout the country, is that you have the opportunity to refinance some of your existing bonds. And really what it really boils down to is that you can go from an all-in interest rate on the bonds that are available to be refunded or refinanced from about a 5.91 to about a 3.25. So by doing that, there's roughly $3 million of taxpayer money that is being saved because you are now paying a lower interest rate on that $30 million of bonds that are being refinanced. Okay? And what it does allow in this special case is by doing this refunding, and if it's paired with doing a new money issuance, you're able to have some flexibility that otherwise you wouldn't have, and I will describe what that is here. Okay? So the new money component, if you chose to do the refunding, is that you're going to be reducing the amount of interest that you pay. And what that does is it allows you to issue some bonds on a very short-term basis because you are going to be refunding bonds that are in that window. So if we were to issue some new bonds, roughly 1.3 million, because that is the proposed need that you currently have, if you do it in conjunction with the refunding, you could issue the bonds for about an 8-year maturity, because those are the bonds that you're going to be calling and refinancing. So that's where you have this extra revenue because of the reduction in interest in those years. Because it's so short-term in nature, your average interest rate for this borrowing would just be 1.98%, and your repayment ratio is just 1.11. So rarely have I ever seen a new bond issuance that you're able to do it at such great interest rate, because you're doing it for such a short term. They're all going to be current interest bonds, so that means they're the most efficient. And the great news is that you can do it without any increase in tax rate. And that's being done because you are lowering the tax rate with the refunding. So there will be a slight amount of tax reduction, not the full amount because you're going to be issuing some new debt, but there will be no increase in tax rate. Yes.
Just one thing to remind the board and public about. Over the years from now, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years,
Right.
the school district may need to pull additional bond money based on what the great voters here in Emeryville did,
Right.
as we need to over the years
Sure.
for the project or for the facility.
Yes, you will be able to, so you'll be issuing these new bonds here, the 1.3 million. You still will then have access to the remaining amount of authorization. And you can issue those whenever the tax rate does allow you to do it. So when assessed values go up and you have taxing capacity, you can issue those in the future.
If the district needs to.
Yeah, as your needs come available, by all means. Now, I think what the important point for you to consider is, because you're being able to issue this new series of bonds, Series F, for 8 years, you're now being able to finance short-term assets. So all those things that you see on your list that you want to finance usually are not able to be financed with 30-year bonds. Usually with 30-year bonds, you have to finance things that have kind of a 30-year life. In this case, you're able to borrow the money and use it on and make purchases for things that you really need. And so in most cases, if you came to us and said, we want to borrow, $2, $3, $4 million, and In most cases, you'd have to then issue it for 30 years, and it would be very difficult for your projects to include computers and storage and things like that. So in this case, you're able to issue this new debt because you have a refunding opportunity. At the same time, you won't have an increase in tax rate because you'll be reducing your tax rate with the refunding. You're able to borrow at almost a rate that is very, very rare and almost unheard of because it's only 8 years, and at the same time be able to access a project list that normally you couldn't. So when I was discussing this with Superintendent Rubio, and we kind of looked at the way to structure the refunding, it was something that, again, it's unusual, but one that I think fits exactly what you need. So the next steps would be, we have the documents that have been prepared for you to review this evening and to approve. And if that does occur, then we would be on target to close within the next 4 weeks. We have everything prepared. We've talked to the rating agencies. We anticipate that the rating on the bonds would still be the AA3 from Moody's. Which means you will get the very good interest rate in the marketplace. You will not need bond insurance, and therefore we feel you'll be in a very good position, again, to secure that really good rate. The markets, the financial markets have stabilized, and interest rates have not been going up as they had anticipated. So we do feel the numbers that we're presenting here are in line with what will actually occur if you choose to move forward and we close in about 4 weeks. It's always our policy as your advisor, if anything happens between now and the next 4 weeks where these numbers are not reflective of what I'm describing to you, we would be our recommendation to come back to the board and say this is what it now looks like. So your approval tonight is conditioned upon making sure that it's within plus or minus, just a few percentage of what we've shown you here. Okay. So I'm here to answer any questions. I do firmly believe, as your financial advisor, this is a tremendous deal. And again, whenever you have an opportunity to save taxpayers this kind of money, most districts do these refundings. Very, very common. Okay.
So the company.
And one last thing I do want to add. On the doing the money, the new money component, the cost of issuance is so low because you're able to do it in conjunction with the refunding. So for example, and I will just be very honest, our CFW fee is the same, and so literally there's no charge that we're putting forth with the new money component. So it makes it very, very efficient, and your cost of issuance is very, very, very low.
So,
with the issuance of the possible issuance of these bonds, so we're going to retire $30 million worth of debt under this.
You don't retire. Yeah.
But then you replace it with the new issuance.
You replace it with new debt, right?
Okay.
That's at a lower interest rate.
Okay.
That is correct.
what were you talked about service fees? What would the service fees be for your financial?
For our financial? Okay. So the service fee that we have on any transaction that is over 25 million, so the refunding's at 30 million, we have a $90,000 fee. And for the new money component, we normally, for anything that's, let's say 5 million or under, I believe our fee's like 65,000. We're not charging the 65,000 at all. So we would only charge 90,000 for both transactions. So we're basically waiving the fee because they're being done at the same time.
And that's based on our current written agreement with your company?
That's based on your current written agreement.
Okay.
Technically, it doesn't say if you do two at the same time, you can't charge them, but we would actually, we would waive the fee on the smaller deal because we're doing them at the same time.
Yeah.
And I can't, even though we've not negotiated with each of the other financial partners, their fees also will be discounted significantly for doing it because they're doing both at the same time.
I'm sorry, what other financial partners are you talking about?
That would be the bond counsel, okay, and disclosure counsel. So we have people here from Jones Hall. So the finance team is made up of really three players: ourselves, the financial advisor, the underwriter who sells the bonds, as well as bond counsel who prepares all the documents that you're reviewing.
So would you be able to tell us the total in service fees? But when all is said and done, would you be able to tell us the total?
I can tell you, would you like to know what, I can make
The-
sure that you
the
have
total
them
service fees
before
when
we
all is well done.
close. I can give you an estimate. I think right now we are estimating total fees not to exceed $175,000.
And that's out of a $30 million issuance, correct?
That's for two separate issuances. Mhm.
And then going back to the $30 million, and just as far as the time frame, those lifespan of that debt was 30 and 35 years?
It was about 30 years, yeah.
Okay, so we're basically shortchanging that by about 15 years, correct?
Well, what you're doing is, you're going to still have some of the longer maturities.
Yes.
We're just refinancing some of the ones
Portion of it.
right, portion of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as far as then our liabilities at, let's say, the end of the 8 years of maturity of that bond, then actually we're in a better position for maybe possible future issuance because we've retired that amount of debt.
Yes. Whenever you have a refinancing, you are going to open yourself up to have additional tax revenues available because you are reducing your interest payments slightly. So your real ability, just to be straightforward with you here, your real ability to issue bonds in the future is going to come from the assessed valuation that's going to be occurring. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My daughter's 11 years old.
Yes.
How would you explain this to her?
How would I explain this to her?
Yes.
I would say you can take something that currently costs $5 and you're going to exchange it for something that costs $2.50, and it's a better deal.
Great. And we'll use that money for?
And you're going to use that new money for projects, and you're going to get something that you need.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. I've never been asked that question. I kind of like it, though. Put it in my repertoire.
Yeah. Student representative, I know you had questions before the previous board meeting that we had this gentleman here. Do you have any follow-up questions or any comments? All right. I know this is information only, but if there's any other questions from the board? At this time, public comment.
Next item.
Ruth Major. You said it would be a $3 million save. That was total on the refunding. So when you say it's the total, that means you've already taken out that estimated 175,000, or is that 175,000 to come out the 3 million? Just clarification question.
Oh, you might have to
Might
go to
wanna step to the
microphone. Sorry.
microphone.
Sorry.
That, and the number that we currently have is 2.9, so I estimate it to be close to 3, but it's 2.9, and that changes daily based on the interest rates. But that 2.9 had all fees netted out. So that was the actual, what we call gross savings after, prior to, after all expenses are taken out.
Do any of
Additional?
those-
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
oh, sorry,
Go
I was
ahead.
going to ask a question, follow up, sorry. Do any of these savings brought back to the taxpayers in any
Yes.
way?
So in this case, when we're talking about net, so if you didn't do the new money at all, you just did the refunding, that's the 2.9 million. If you add in then, if you then now add in your new money issuance, and so you add in some new debt service, your savings comes in about 1.5. So the 2.9 is if you do a refunding only and you don't add any new debt whatsoever. Okay? You can't really do the new money alone because it would be too cost prohibitive. So your $2.9 million savings is a gross number, and that is if you did the refunding only. That is all the savings that's going to be calculated from that. Once you have that savings, you have the ability to issue this new debt, which has debt service which is much less than the 2.9 savings. So you're able to put it in, you're able to add that in there, and your savings now, when you add in the new debt, is then reduced slightly, but you still have significant savings. After you do all of this, said and done, you will then have savings to your taxpayers of roughly $1.5 million.
With the ability to still go to our list and potentially pay for an audit or pay for furniture.
Oh, yeah. So you'll have $1.3 million in cash, and you'll be saving the taxpayers about $1.5 million because you have lower debt service as a result of the refunding.
Adding those two gives us the 2.9 ballpark number that you mentioned?
Right.
Do you happen to, how is this the 1.5 million in savings to taxpayers? How is that usually described in terms of per taxpayer or per parcel, and how can we get to a unit number on that?
I can somehow try to calculate what that would be. What happens is the 1.5 million is over the term of the bonds, so there is an annual savings, and I can, you can figure that. I can figure that out for you once we have the actual numbers that are the actual, and then it's going to be probably less than $1. It's not significant to your thing, but collectively, it is significant to all of the taxpayers.
As a community, the burden of the community is
the
tax
burden of the community, yes, yeah. This tax savings is around 10% of your total debt service. So you're saving about 10% of all your debt service on those bonds. The industry average is that if ever you're above 3%, you have the ability, or that is considered an acceptable refunding.
Oops. Yeah.
I think maybe what you're looking for is every year when you get your tax bill, it will be slightly lower than it would have been if the refunding didn't.
How much so? That's the number that we're...
I don't know the number. We have
I
to
think,
ballpark?
I think currently we were taxed at $60 per $100,000 worth of valuation. And that's the maximum that we can charge. It might be less because we haven't maxed it out. So what you'd end up having to do is I hope I'm correct in that description.
We can't go over that amount per.
Cannot go
So
over.
you would-
So right now you are right up against $60.
Right.
Okay. So by getting this refunding, you go down to roughly $58, and probably adding in this new debt, you go back up to about 59 and a half, something like that, 59.
And is that per, I forgot, is it per 100,000?
That's per 100,000.
Square feet.
Time in order for the taxpayers to save money. Just because you locked in an interest rate at a much higher rate, if interest rates go down, it is advisable that you refinance in order to access that lower cost of funding, in order to lower your taxes.
Thank you.
Any other actually, public comment. Continue
So
that.
I just want to say that young lady that came to the mic, if you would introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Katie Dobson, and I'm with Jones Hall. We serve as bond counsel to the district.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Public comment?
Yeah, so I was just looking at this list of expenditures. And so I feel like, you know, how we've sort of gotten into trouble in the past is, you know, we don't have a detailed list of what we're spending. And so this to me seems like a very cursory list, you know, that adds up to $1.3 million. And so the Turner closeout, it seems like, is anyone actually clear on what we're paying for? Is it insurance? Is it, you know, I think we should know. I mean, as taxpayers, I'm not trying to be difficult. I just think we should know.
It will still come to the board and for public review. It's just, I believe it is mostly
Well,
insurance.
but you're approving the bonds tonight, right? I mean, that's the goal.
Yes.
But we don't really know what they're for, specifically. So I just think we, you know, you really need to be careful with our money.
Yeah,
so I'm just
absolutely.
asking for
Yeah.
much more, like Turner closeouts, and it says estimate. That's just like doesn't. I have no idea what that is.
May I chime in here? I think, Dr. Rubio, I think it has to do with, was it the last change order from the electrical contractor as far as the closeout of the contract, and that was above and beyond what was originally contracted, and they came back with a late change order, and the magnitude was about $400,000 when after Swinnerton had went through their due diligence, knocked it down from $800,000 to $400,000. So this, I believe that this $300,000 is approximately going to cover that cost. That's my understanding.
I believe that's part of it, but to answer the question, one way or the other, to be honest with you, we're going to have to pay the closeout. So I believe it's close to 300. It could be $300,000 to $350,000. If I have a moment, I can try to reach one of our Swinnerton people and find out exactly. I think it's also insurance. I could find out, but either way, we're paying for it. So I appreciate your question. It's a good question, and I'm not trying to be flip in any way. I just, in my mind, we're paying this. I wanted to list it as a source. I was asked to list the potential expenditures, but it'll take me a moment. I could step next door as you guys talk.
That's okay, but I just think in the future.
Sure.
You know, to
We
know
can add more
exactly
detail.
what it is we're paying for would be extremely helpful.
Absolutely.
Necessary, in
Absolutely.
fact.
I agree.
Okay, so teacher requested storage for classrooms. You sort of explained that.
Yes.
Presentation station.
And
How many desks? How many you know, is there a breakdown? Like what, $40,000 is a lot of money for, it's just a very specific breakdown of what things cost would just, I think, be a really good idea.
I can give that to you right now. 16,
Okay.
17, 18, 19, sorry. I believe, so that's 18 of the presentation stations. Some teachers already have these. 18 teachers said they would like to have the same. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13 of these, what they call the sit and stand electronic desks. So, did I say
And where
18?
are those going, the sit-stand desks?
Those are going into different, depending on the teacher who requested them, those are all classrooms.
So it's all for teachers?
They're all for teachers.
Okay, and then computers for students, $245,000.
Mhm.
So you've got how many students, 700?
700.
So per student, is that how much, I mean, what kind of computers? Are we getting iPads? Are we getting desktops? What are we getting?
Sure, I can answer that. These are
Okay.
Lenovo. Microsoft has finally decided to jump in and take a swing at the Chromebook. I don't know what to call it. The Chromebook wave that's been happening for school districts. Have been buying Chromebooks for a couple years because they're so inexpensive. Microsoft has now decided to lower their price point dramatically and allow the company Lenovo. I'm going to answer your question. So the Lenovo tablets with the full with the full Microsoft operating system.
How much per computer?
The estimate there, I believe on my math, is around $300 and change.
$300
per device. Yeah, roughly.
per tablet, and we have 700 students.
That's correct.
Okay.
So my math is a little off there, probably in speaking to you, but it's approximately that.
Yeah. Okay. So the other problem is that when Shirley was, well, I don't know if she was actually on the COC at the time, but she was tracking expenses for quite a period of time, and there was a line item for more than $200,000. I think it was $250,000 for iPads for students, and this was back in what, 2011. So here we're doing it again, and I don't understand why we're doing it again. And that issue did come up, and Josh Simon told me that the iPads were stolen and that somebody was prosecuted, but then I heard that that wasn't in fact what happened, but they did go missing.
There were some devices. You're correct. I believe it was 2011. It was quite a few number of years before I was here. I did hear some of the same story. I don't recall the amounts of money.
I do.
Okay.
It was at least 200,000.
Okay, it may have been. I'm not disputing it with
that's
you.
a lot of money. So
okay, so I don't know. The board last year made a commitment to the community and to the students and to the faculty to purchase a device for every student. I don't know if you heard me earlier tonight say that we really have to have strong systems in place to monitor these. They're not going to go home right away at all. We want to have them locked down. But the important piece for us from an educational perspective, teachers really grapple with having to share currently carts of computers, one for every, 6, 7 classrooms. And the high school right now has been struggling for several weeks while the K-8 are testing because they're in the middle of projects. They don't have enough computers. So it's
well,
based.
they had them, and they didn't, and now they don't. So
yeah.
it's an issue that you're using our money to buy all new computers for every student in the district when we already did that once, and now we're doing it again. So I just want to make that clear.
Sure. And we like to do it right, hopefully.
Well, yeah, it didn't happen right the first time.
That's correct. You're right.
Okay. And then the last thing, student furniture for between $100,000 and $200,000. So also in the list of expenses was furniture. And I guess, I don't know how much, we could look it up, how much was spent, but a lot of money was spent on furniture. And now we're replacing all that furniture. We're doing it again.
No, we're not. So,
okay.
So earlier, I don't know. So I'll just try to. Maybe I wasn't clear. Most teachers here at the new facility received brand new desks, brand new furniture, elevated desks, so the students can be at the height of sit at the height of the teacher, which I think they really appreciate. It's a very different feeling for them to be sitting much higher when they're eye level with the teachers. A number of classrooms. For a number of classrooms, we had to bring over older furniture. So it was unfortunate, and I apologize to some of the teachers that we put a freeze on the furniture money as we were moving in because I was concerned about whether or not there would be enough funding for that. So we're not taking any new furniture and throwing out and doing that again. What we're doing is trying to complete our project for the classrooms where teachers didn't get what everybody else got.
Okay, so can you just give me an idea of what we're buying? How many desks?
Absolutely,
How
absolutely.
many?
I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know classrooms offhand. The desks are the ones you're familiar with. These member columns. They're the standing desks. They're in a number of our classrooms where students have the option to stand or sit. There's a swinging bar underneath, so they have the option to swing their foot on it at the
Okay,
same
but you
time.
can't tell me how many you're getting.
I don't have.
Or how much they are per desk.
I don't have that handy.
Okay, so
Sorry.
so just going forward, it would just be really good to give more detail,
More detail.
so that then I wouldn't stand up here asking all these questions.
You got it.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry. Right. Any additional public comment? If not, let's swing back to the board. And if there's any final comments and questions?
So I would like to see something to the nature of the COC over this particular reissuance so that we don't have to come back to the table and have discussions about audits later on when it's too late, and maybe have it the whole project audit along the way. Maybe we can have a committee with a couple parents, a couple community members, a couple school board members to see how the money is being spent and to make sure that there's accountability along the way.
Are you suggesting not letting the COC see these expenses as they go through?
No, yes, letting them. But as the money's being spent, to make sure that
Sure.
it's what we're saying, yes, this is where the money will go.
We can also bring it back to the board. I have no problem bringing it back to the community and the board. It might be August or September if that's okay, but we can bring it back and say, here's exactly what we did. That's fine. We can do both.
I do have a question pertaining to the issuance of these bonds. Now, we don't have to issue these bonds if demand isn't there, correct? Our demand? We can basically refinance, but have the obligation to issue those bonds at a later time.
You're talking about the 1.3?
Yeah, the 1.3.
They need to be they need to be done simultaneously in
Okay.
order for you to achieve the savings.
Okay.
Of the cost of issuance.
Okay.
If you were to do them at different times, then your cost of issuance
All right.
savings
Okay.
really evaporates.
Okay.
You still would have the ability to issue them later. It would just be a little more expensive.
Okay.
And more expensive if the interest rate changes on us.
And also you have the risk of interest rates going
Yeah.
up.
And what's the time frame for the basically spending the bond money? Is it
Oh, you
1
have
year,
up to
2 years?
you have
Three.
up to three
3 years?
years.
Three.
Okay, so-
IRS has a 3-year
so
expectation.
As it stands now, the most critical one would be the contract obligations of the district would be to pay, basically close out the contract with Turner.
Honestly, they're all important. I mean, if you ask me, the teachers' classrooms are the most important philosophically.
But I mean, as far as contractually
contractually, yeah, we will, at some point, we need to close out the project and come up with this funding, yes.
All right.
I lean towards moving forward with this. However, I think that we just with the issuance. However, I feel like there's an opportunity for us to maybe get a bit more visibility or maybe more input on how we are going to end up using these funds. In essence, what I would recommend is that we move forward and then with the bond issuance. However, we don't necessarily have to agree on how we're going to use the money, but rather we take a bit more time on that.
And I think this is for information only, so I think when we move to the final item, then we can present it as such. But I think if there's no further comment on the board, we can move on to the next item. And if so, I have to excuse me. I need to take care of something for a moment.
Can we take a recess?
Yes, can we take a
Can we take a 2-minute, 3-minute?
Yes.
3 minutes? Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
Sorry, thank you very much for that break.
I was good, stretching my legs.
We're moving on to the next item is, forgive me, there you go, is the approval of resolution 11, authorizing the issuance and sale of general obligation bonds, election of 2010 Series F. Okay, this is for informational only.
No, this is action.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's action item.
This is action item.
Come on. Okay,
thought
thank
we
you.
was ready
It
to
just
vote.
didn't come up. Okay, it is for action item. Dr. Ruby, would you like to introduce the item?
Sure. This is a request to the board to consider approval of Resolution 11, which is required for issuance of additional bonds under Measure J, under the authorization of Measure J. I would just add to the prior conversation that the other part I'd appreciate if everyone would keep in mind is that this also is pretty timely for us because the ability for us to do these things potentially for teachers also means that we can do that without hurting the general fund, which is, for me as superintendent, is pretty high up there and trying to protect our general fund.
All right. Would we want further explanation from
Ms.
Dursu?
Sue? Did I catch your attention, Ms. Sue, by saying that?
She got mine. So.
Ms. Sue, also our chief financial person internally, also worries very much about the general fund.
Hi, I'm Doris Sue, the fiscal director at Emery. I just want to make a comment on, as school districts are still facing tight budget nowadays. As you can see, we discussed during second interim that the LCFF funding is threatening. And also the rising cost of the pension, like STIRS and PERS, and actually PERS alone, projected by 2025, it will be 30%. So the school bond is another way the school districts can able to get a new financial funding to meet the school district's urgent needs. So I believe Dr. Ruby already handed out a list of parcel of the requests for the new bond issuance. And I'm sure he will give us a more detailed, complete list by the next board meeting. As board members of a school district who understand and appreciate the value of education. The money here is badly needed, and we will spend the money effectively to improve the student education.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, thank you, Doris. Doris, please stay.
Can I just take a minute to say something about this little wonderful lady?
Mm-hmm.
She is amazing, and she's behind the scenes, and a lot of people don't know what she do, and she only gets to come up here and say a couple things. It's always about her job. But Dora Sue, thank you. Thanks for all you do.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't get too round about things, and everybody can just be losing their minds, and she's still just on chill mode getting her job done, and we appreciate that about you.
Yes, the sentiments are, I think, spread amongst the board, so I think a great job. With that in mind, I know this is a pretty brief in a presentation, but I think it's a very important thing to consider because it does hinge on a two-part decision. So I just want to make sure that we feel prepared in moving forward with this. And with that in mind, I would like to find out if there's any other questions that Dr. Rubio or if Ms. Dorsu could step to the podium if we have any other questions pertaining to this. And then plus public comment, I just want to make sure that we are addressing that as well. Any?
No.
So a question, in general, what's the difference between 9.6 and 9.7?
Oh, Mr. Greenlee and bond counsel maybe.
There are two different bond issuances, so you have two different resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
One is for the refunding, and one would be then for the new money.
And then this 9.7, the one that we're voting on today.
We have to do them together.
So we're voting for both?
Yes.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
We pretty much talked about it.
So if that's the case, then should we just move on to 9? I'm kind of at a loss now, but at 9.7 to work in conjunction with 9.6?
I think, I'm not sure you can combine them.
You can find them, they have to be adopted as, they're two separate action items, so you have to first take action on 9.7.
It's a good question. I was thinking the same thing. Why don't we just put them together?
That would save time, unfortunately, legally.
No.
separate action items.
Let's do it properly.
Thank you, counsel. That's definitely why you're here.
Yeah.
Appreciate keeping us straight here.
Okay. Mr.
So
Vargas
then
had-
again, what is 9.7? What are we voting on?
So
Actually-
9.6 is authorizing the issuance, and 9.7, if I have the language correctly here.
Please step to the podium, please.
So 9.6 would be the resolution for the new money, the 1.3 million, and then the 9.7 would be the resolution for the refunding bonds.
Okay, that makes sense now. Okay. So if it is 9.6, questions from the board to person at the podium, public comment? Any further comments from the board on this item?
I'm ready to vote.
All right, let's have a motion. Do I hear a motion for 9.6?
So move.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Ball?
Yes.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Inch?
No.
Member Member Vargas?
Yes.
President Merriam?
Yes. Resolution passes 4 to 1. Next item is 9.7.
That was 9.6.
This is 9.7.
9.6 was what we just voted on.
Just vote on 9.7.
And 9.7. So this is a tandem resolution, but it voted it on separate, or presented as separate items. So can we have some description of this for the general public and here at the
So this would be the resolution now. You just approved the resolution for the new money bonds. So this 9.7, the next resolution, Resolution 12, would be the one authorizing the issuance and sale of the refunding bonds, which would be the up to $30 million of refunding for the refinancing of your prior bonds.
Questions from the board? Clarification, questions for the presentation? Public comment? Any further final questions from the board? All right, motion, please.
I'll move.
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Member Ball?
Yes.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Inch?
Yes.
Member Vargas?
Yes.
President Miriam?
Yes, motion carries unanimously. With that being said, going on to item 10, calendar review. Oh, we can call Member Langdon in it.
Calendar review this evening. We have our next regular board meeting scheduled on June 15th at 5:30 p.m. High school graduation is scheduled for June 14th at 6 p.m. And I believe the high school graduation is going to be.
Should we wait for?
It's going to be here.
Should we wait for?
Member Langdon.
Who? Oh, I didn't see. Oh,
Langdon.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Did someone get her?
Yeah, I think Lisa.
She said she was just going to wait.
I'm sorry. I was on autopilot. Sorry.
She said she was just going to wait for us in closed session. She came and got her stuff.
I don't know, but she should.
It's up to all of you. I mean, we can do this and close the meeting, or
Let me go ask.
While y'all was in the bathroom, she came and got her stuff and said she'll wait in closed session. Did you hear me?
Calendar review.
June.
Next regular board meeting, as Dr. Rubio said, is rescheduled to June 15th,
Both at 10 a.m.
2017 at 5:30. And then high school graduation is on June 14th, 2017 at 6 p.m. And Dr. Rubio, where did you say it was at?
We believe it's going to be here. Now, we do have a new portable stage coming tomorrow, so we're going to set that up so that the principals can see that if they want the option, and the students want the option to be on the field that we traditionally, I think we used to be on the field years ago. So we're going to have a brand new portable stage. We're going to piece it together and put in panels, carpeted, draped. It's pretty nice, and put it along the track because it's a lot of weight facing this way towards the gym. And so that's an option that principals and students can look at. I think this is, students helping us good with the sort of the decisions on that.
I mean, it's more Miss Bianca helping, the
Okay.
one who's chaperoning grad night, but maybe I will be volunteering at graduation, so I could ask.
Okay, yeah, so they'll have that option as well. So, but I believe it is here. And then I don't have the dates here, but I believe 5th grade graduation, I think, is June 13th at 10 a.m. And I believe 8th grade graduation is June 14th at 10 a.m. Does that sound right? Yeah, yeah. Oh, Ms. Tamery says yes, so I'll go
All right.
for it.
All right.
Could we get those via email, maybe? Or
I'm
calendar?
sorry?
Could we get those dates once they're finalized via email or?
They are finalized, so we'll have
Okay.
Ms. Tamery send them out. Can we send them out tomorrow to everybody?
Appreciate it, thank you.
Sure.
Right. 10.1, future agenda items.
I believe we have a running list right
Yeah,
now.
and is there any, I mean, we shall keep these on here because they're still valid.
Yeah.
But with that in mind, are there any adds to this list or modifications to this list amongst here on the board?
We've knocked a few of Member Vargas's out so far, and we're diligently intending to
All right.
continue.
Good to hear. But yeah, like I said, let's maintain this list and keep at it. With that in mind.
One item?
Oh.
Yeah, sorry. Just one though, just one time. Yeah,
Get your pen out.
yeah, no, I wanted to maybe discuss or maybe see if we can share a plan for the continuity of the implementation of PBIS. I think there was questions earlier today about that, so would love for us to hear about how that's going to roll into next year.
Absolutely, and I think Ms. Tamery already noted it in the notes from earlier that we're going to go ahead and bring that, and so we'll duly noted and we'll add it to the list. It's a great question.
Any public comment on that?
Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
All right, any other follow-up questions on that? If not, let's move to the board reports and announcements. Any reports?
Only thing I'd like to say, it was great seeing everyone last night at the open house. It was nice
Yeah.
talking with teachers and parents, and let's see what else. Ms. Tamery, I appreciate the invitation to the ribbon cutting. I'm not sure yet if I'll be able to make it, but keep those invitations coming.
Yes.
I'd like to say that I also went to open house, and I talked with quite a few teachers, and I got a lot of feedback and a lot of comments and a lot of concerns. So it was great to go. Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
It was great to see everybody yesterday.
I know.
It's very exciting.
I think the last time we had a full complement of board members at a function was at the ECCL ribbon cutting. I think that was the time we all met last. Dr. Ruby, you have anything to add?
No, I heard from teachers today that it went very well, and I was speaking to teachers when they were meeting with the new principals, and they said that they enjoyed having people, and sorry I couldn't be with you guys last night. Heard it went well.
All right. With that being said, shall we move to closed session?
Yes. And do you want to read the items that we're going to be going
I'm sorry.
over?
Yes, item 12.1 is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant of Government Code Section 54956.9. Item D2, the board will meet in closed session to discuss the significant exposure to litigation in one case. Item 12.2 is conference with real property negotiator pursuant of Government Code Section 94956.8, District Negotiator, Dr. John Rubio, property Ralph Hawley School Site, 1275 61st Street, Emeryville, CA 94608, Authorized Negotiation Party, YMCA of Central Bay Area, under negotiations, possible license to use the Ralph Hawley School Site from July 1st to 2017 to July 30th, 2022. Instructions to negotiate will concern price and terms of payment. And item 12.3 is conference with real property negotiator pursuant of Government Code Section 94956.8, District Negotiator, Dr. Don Rubio, property Yanni Yates School, 1070 41st Street, Emeryville, California, 94678. Authorized negotiating party, German International School of Silicon Valley. Under negotiations, possible license to use the Annie Yates School site from July 1st, 2017 to June 30th, 2018. Instructions to negotiator will concern price and terms of payment. And finally, item 12.4, conference with real property negotiator pursuant of the Government Code Section 94568.8, District Negotiator, Dr. John Rubio, property Annie Yates School, 1070 41st Street, Emeryville, CA 94608, authorized negotiating party, Berkeley Rose Waldorf School, under negotiations, possible license to use the Annie Yates School site from July 1st, 2017 to July 30th, 2018. Instructions to negotiator will concern price and terms of payment. And finally, 12.5, superintendent's evaluation.
Could you read those all again, please? Thank you.
I know, this time I read it all.
Yes, adjourning the closed session.